Chapter 990. In the Evergreen Kingdom Palace, numerous immortal palaces and ancient halls stood tall, spanning tens of thousands of miles, resembling a real city. This imperial palace was the residence of many nobility characters of the Evergreen Kingdom. It was the absolute center of the Evergreen Kingdom, where the strongest emperors and emperors of the Evergreen Kingdom were gathered. Each and every immortal palace in this vast imperial palace was a nobility residence. Without exception, if one casually stepped into any of the palaces, there would be an army of elites and immortal king experts within. Kings and marquises all had their own armies. Their residences were all like small cities, spanning hundreds of miles. For some kings of immortal empires, their residences even spanned over 1,000 miles. Only when one entered the royal palace of the Evergreen Immortal Empire would one be able to truly understand how many experts there were in the Evergreen Immortal Empire and how terrifying they were. One could say that the elites of the Evergreen Kingdom were all gathered here. Naturally, the most glorious place in the Imperial Palace was undoubtedly the Monarch Palace located at the center of the city. That was the place where the Chongqing the Great, as well as the descendants of the immortal emperor and his army, resided. Even for nobility characters, if they wanted to enter, they would have to go through a report first. At this moment, in the teleportation array region of the Imperial Palace, a beam of light flashed as two silhouettes appeared in a grand array. The guardian of the grand array had a solemn expression on his face as he knelt down on one knee and bowed. "Welcome back to the palace, princess." "Welcome back to the palace, princess." Numerous voices rang out. Qin directly stepped out, and with a wave of her hand, a spatial leaf appeared. She and Qin Wenyin stepped into it and continued on their way. Although they had arrived at the Imperial Palace, there was still a distance before they could reach the Emperor Palace. "Welcome back to the palace, princess." A resonant voice thundered through the air. Qin and Qin Wenyin were already shuttling through the air. Up in the air, Qin Wenyin stared at the Imperial Palace before him as the shock in his heart increased to the extreme. Each and every one of these palaces was akin to a royal palace. He naturally knew that these residences were all nobility characters of the Evergreen Kingdom. These residences were all occupied by characters with towering authority within the Evergreen Kingdom. For characters like the Everpeace Marquis, although he was also a marquis, he didn't have the qualifications to enter these residences. Very swiftly, the news of Princess Qing's return from the city of ancient emperors circulated around. At this moment, she and Qin Wenyin were still flying through the air, and many nobility characters already knew about this. Princess Qing has returned. She's at the peak of the 9th level of celestial phenomenon and shouldn't be far from immortal foundation. Princess Qing has returned. In the future, you should pay more visits to the Emperor Palace. Child, Princess Qing has returned, and there's even a young man around your age with her. You have to hurry up. Grandson, Princess Qing has always been straightforward with those of the same generation as her. If you can gain her favor, you would have a very high chance of success. In the various residences, numerous voices rang out. Many of them were reminding the younger generations, and Qin Wenyin was also mentioned. Princess Qing was the youngest daughter the Everpeace Immortal Emperor doted on the most. Her talent was extraordinary, and although the Chongqing the Great would definitely choose a supreme genius for her in the future, the initiative still lay in the hands of Princess Qing. Before the Everpeace Immortal Emperor officially confirmed his son-in-law, everyone still had a chance. If they didn't fight for it, they wouldn't even have the slightest chance. This was the common thought of everyone. This point the Chongqing the Great also knew. However, he couldn't be bothered to care about such matters. There had never been anyone who could truly gain the favor of his daughter. Not a single one. The void leaf continued shuttling through the air, slowing down in front of a majestic royal residence. This was one of the many residences in the royal palace, exuding a sense of majesty. Below it, a group of armored soldiers soared up into the air. When they saw the person who arrived, their eyes trembled as they knelt on one knee in the air and respectfully greeted, "We pay our respects to Princess." "Is my aunt in the royal palace?" Qing calmly asked. Reporting to Princess, Princess Chongping is in the royal palace. The person in the lead respectfully replied. You guys go ahead and do what you need to do. Qing calmly spoke as she continued walking forward. This residence belonged to her aunt, the younger sister of the evergreen immortal emperor. She was also a princess character, Princess Chongping. Qin Wendian didn't say anything, nor did he ask anything. He just followed Qing all the way to the central area of the residence. Along the way, many experts saw them and all bowed to welcome them. Naturally, no one would obstruct the arrival of Princess Qing. Moreover, everyone in the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom knew that Princess Qing had very few people close to her. Princess Chongping was one of the few who had a very good relationship with Princess Qing. Princess Qing often visited Princess Chongping's residence. In the distance, there was a group of silhouettes walking in the air. The person in the lead was a beautiful woman in white. She seemed to be in her early 30s. She was extremely beautiful and had an extraordinary temperament. Whether it was her fair skin or her exquisite figure, they were all perfect. This made Qin Wenyan think that this family of people were all great beauties. Qing, you're back. The white-robed beauty smiled at Qing, exuding an extremely flirtatious aura. Although she looked very young, the gaze she used to look at Qing was filled with doting love towards a junior. Her actual age was much older than Qing. Greetings, Your Highness, Princess Qing. The people behind Princess Chongping bowed slightly to Qing. Aunt. Ch. called out in a crisp voice. At this time, Princess Chongping had already walked in front of her. She looked at Qin Wenyan with a smile and said, What's the matter? Did you bring a son-in-law back for your father? Princess Chongping was evidently a wise and far-sighted person. Qing directly brought Qin Wenyan into the royal palace and even walked shoulder to shoulder with him. The two of them were only a fist's distance away from each other. Princess Chongping understood her niece very well. Ordinary men wouldn't be able to get close to her, let alone a fist's distance. Moreover, Qing even brought Qin Wenyan here. She looked at Qin Wenyan up and down as if she wanted to see through Qin Wenyan. There was a smile on her face. She was very curious about what kind of man could win the favor of her precious niece. What surprised Princess Chongping even more was that after she made that joke, Qing didn't deny it. There was no doubt that she acquiesced in the relationship between her and Qin Wenyan. It seemed that Qing was serious. Junior Qin Wenyan greets you, Senior. Qin Wenyan felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by Princess Chongping, but he still bowed in a neither servile nor overbearing manner to show his respect. The first person Qing brought him to see was her aunt. Obviously, the woman in front of him had a very high position in Qing's heart. Little guy, you're able to pursue my precious niece. Great. How did you do it? Princess Chongping stared at Qin Wenyan with a teasing smile on her face. She was truly curious as to how this fellow managed to woo her niece. Senior must be joking. I've been acquainted with Qing for a very long time. Qin Wenyan replied. As the sound of his voice faded, Princess Chongping's eyes flashed. Particle World? Qin Wenyan nodded. From Particle World, you chased her all the way to the immortal realms, all the way to my evergreen kingdom? Princess Chongping's eyes gleamed with sharpness, instantly placing Qin Wenyan in high regard. Such willpower, if he wasn't a traitor, then he must be someone with great love. When I was 16, I got acquainted with Qing. Many years after Qing was brought back to the immortal realms, I was also sent to the immortal realms by an immortal foundation senior. After that, I participated in the 100-year grand ceremony organized by the Dongshangshan Gate and met Princess Lioli there. Princess Lioli told me that Qing is in the city of ancient emperors. Hence, I asked a senior to bring me to the city of ancient emperors and found Qing. Qing brought Qin Wenyan here because he understood that if he wanted to gain a foothold in the royal palace, he needed someone to support him and Qing. Hence, he used a few simple sentences to explain things clearly, wanting Princess Chongping to not doubt his intentions and to have a favorable impression of him. Childhood sweethearts? Princess Chongping smiled. This matter even involved Princess Lioli. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, Princess Changping instantly understood a lot of information. Firstly, since Qin Wenyin could be sent to the city of ancient emperors, his talent was undoubtedly extraordinary. Also, there was an immortal emperor standing behind him. "Aunt, I will leave him here with you first. Help me take care of him, I will go and meet my father." Qin spoke to Princess Changping. Princess Changping naturally understood that it was impossible for this lass to bring Qin Wenyin to meet her immortal emperor elder brother the moment they arrived in the royal palace. "Okay, just leave this little fellow to me." Princess Changping smiled. Qin's beautiful eyes turned to Qin Wenyin as she spoke in a light voice. "Can you temporarily stay at my aunt's place?" Qin Wenyin nodded. "Qin, you go ahead." Qin nodded. After that, she turned and departed. Princess Changping turned to Qin Wenyin and spoke. "Let's go down. I still have many questions I want to ask you. Where's this little fellow? Are you a disciple of the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor?" Qin Wenyin bitterly smiled and shook his head. "I'm afraid Eastern Sage hates me to the bone." "What do you mean?" An expression of interest appeared on Princess Changping's face. Qin Wenyin was actually able to make Dongsheng Heaven Emperor hate him? Back then when Qing was brought to the immortal realms, she once asked Changqing the Great to allow Dongsheng Heaven Emperor to go to my particle world to accept a disciple. I obtained the first rank in all the tests, but in the end, Dongsheng Heaven Emperor wanted me to have freedom that I can only enjoy once every 1,000 years. I didn't agree, and he used the excuse of my character to expel me, humiliating me. After that, I also learned that he intentionally did this. Qin Wenyin slowly spoke, briefly explaining what happened after that. After that, in the city of ancient emperors, I killed his disciple, Ke Tianyi, in front of his immortal sense. You have guts. No wonder that last Qing likes you so much. Princess Changping laughed. Just as they were speaking in the royal palace, in the Cloud King manor, the Cloud King stared at the corpse of his granddaughter. His anger towered up into the sky as he roared, "Lian, even if I have to report this to the Evergreen Immortal Emperor, I will seek justice for you." In the Cloud King manor, the Cloud King was enraged as he let out a thunderous roar. Very swiftly, news circulated around the royal palace. The Cloud King's granddaughter, the daughter of the Everpeace Marquis, Charlene, actually died in the hands of Princess Qing. The reason was actually because the princess stood up for a man. And not long ago, Princess Qing brought a young man into the royal palace. This matter instantly caused a huge commotion in the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. Chapter 991. In the Evergreen Kingdom Palace, numerous nobility manors were trembling from the commotion. Princess Qing brought a young man into the royal palace. This matter couldn't be concealed at all. In addition, the people of the various kings' manors soon learned that Princess Qing had arranged for the young man to stay in Princess Changping's residence. This further confirmed the speculations of many. This young man might very well be a lover Princess Qing met outside. The princess is young, it's very normal for her to fall in love. But who is this young man exactly? Which immortal emperor's descendant is he? A voice rang out from the king's residence, wanting to know more about Qin Wentian's background. Princess Qing was in love, but the person she was in love with had to be worthy of her. If not, many young geniuses in the royal palace wouldn't be able to accept it. Is the name of this young man Qin Wenyin? There aren't any peak-level immortal emperors with the surname Qin in the immortal realms. Unless he is a descendant of an ordinary immortal emperor, or a reclusive one. The news from Princess Changping's residence says that this young man isn't a descendant of an immortal emperor but came from a particle world. In that case, does this mean that Qin Wenyin is a genius from a country bumpkin world? The commotion caused by this matter was too terrifying. In an extremely short period of time, everyone in the royal palace knew of Qin Wentian's name. In the nobility manors, their names kept appearing in the mouths of everyone. Most probably, even Qin Wenyin himself didn't expect that his name would shake the entire royal palace in such a short period of time. Although he had already predicted that this trip of his would definitely cause a huge commotion, he still couldn't help but sigh. This young man actually came from a particle world? Could it be that his talent is extremely shocking? Maybe Princess Qing'er is still young and has lost herself in love. The princess is still immature and might have been deceived by flowery words. Princess Qing'er actually dared to kill the granddaughter of the Cloud King for the sake of someone from a particle world? Not only that, she even killed the granddaughter of the Cloud King when she was a guest at the Everpeace Marquis Manor. This is too much. I'm afraid the Everpeace Marquis Manor would surely be alerted. Some of the young geniuses were unconvinced. They had always wanted to get close to Princess Qing'er, but Princess Qing'er didn't give them any chance at all. She was as cold as ice, and no one could get close to her. Princess Qing'er didn't care about anyone at all, no matter what your status was or what talent you had. But now, she actually fell in love with a person from a particle world and even brought him to the royal palace, replacing him and even killing the granddaughter of the Cloud King. Jealousy. Although they hadn't met, many geniuses were already jealous of Qin Wenin. These commotion, Qing'er herself had no idea. She brought Qin Wendian to the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom because she wanted to let her family know of Qin Wentian's existence. She wanted to let her family know of her attitude towards Qin Wendian, and it would be best if they could approve of him. The Great Emperor Palace was located in the center of the royal palace, situated on top of a misty immortal mountain. Immortal qi permeated the air, exuding an incomparably majestic aura. In the Great Emperor Palace, Qing'er came to a great hall and slowly walked out. We pay our respects to Princess Qing'er. The guards all knelt on one knee, staring at Princess Qing'er as she stepped forward. In the majestic hall, a middle-aged man with an extraordinary demeanor was currently writing with a brush in hand. He was cultivating his character and temperament, exuding no aura at all. At this moment, he put down the brush in his hand and inclined his head, staring at the beautiful silhouette walking over. A gentle smile could be seen on his face as he spoke. "Qing'er, you have returned." Qing'er nodded. Even when she was facing her father, her expression was still the same. However, Chongqing the Great understood her very well and naturally wouldn't blame her. In fact, he often blamed himself for missing out on the best time he could spend with Qing'er. Qing'er wanted to say something, but Chongqing the Great stretched out his hand, as though hinting for her to stop. He smiled. "I already know. It's Qin Wenin, right? I didn't expect him to find his way to the city of ancient emperors from a particle world. He truly has some perseverance." Qing'er's beautiful eyes flickered. She calmly stared at Chongqing the Great, but she didn't say anything. It was as though she was waiting for Chongqing the Great to continue speaking. Right now, the royal palace is in an uproar. Many people in the royal nobility manor are already condemning Qin Wenin, saying that he isn't worthy of you. Chongqing the Great spoke in a light voice. Qing'er didn't reply, but her gaze grew colder. "I know you are suspicious of that matter in the past. But Qing'er, there's no need for you to suspect father. I didn't ask Eastern Sage to suppress Qin Wenin." Chongqing the Great calmly spoke. "Naturally, I also didn't ask Eastern Sage to specially take care of Qin Wenin. Everything was done according to his heart's desire. If he accepted Qin Wenin as his disciple, I wouldn't have any objections. It's just that I didn't expect Dong Xingting to have such intentions towards you, to the extent that they would intentionally suppress Qin Wenin. You yourself also didn't wish for him to become the disciple of Dongxing Heaven Emperor and come to the immortal realms." Qing'er stared at Chongqing the Great as she spoke. Her thoughts were extremely meticulous and sensitive. There were some things that she could sense. You can put it that way. But do you know why? Chongqing the Great asked. Qing'er didn't reply. She was waiting for Chongqing the Great to tell her himself. "Because of you." Chongqing the Great sighed. "The royal nobility manor is discussing what kind of person would be worthy of you. But how would they know that I don't care about status? This world has always been balanced. If you want to climb up the social ladder, your status would naturally be on the weaker side. In addition, there aren't many people in the immortal realms that I need to climb up the social ladder for. What I hope for is only for you to grow stronger." Chongqing the Great stared at Qing. His eyes were filled with love as he continued, "Among the emperors and emperors of this world, there are far more men than women. Why is this so? Because men have a deeper obsession towards the martial path. Even if they have someone they love, they would rarely indulge in it and fall into the love between a man and a woman. But women are different. Women are more easily influenced by their emotions and are dragged down by their lust. Qing, you are the same. Qing'er's beautiful eyes flickered. Chongqing the Great rarely talked to her about his inner thoughts. This time, she brought Qin Wenyin to the royal palace to express her attitude towards him. And Chongqing the Great seemed to understand her thoughts. He also told her what Chongqing the Great was thinking about. Women were more easily influenced by their emotions and were dragged down by their lust. She was the same. Qing'er had no way to refute. She knew that what her father Chongqing the Great said was the truth. Child, I really didn't want him to come to the immortal realms. I didn't want you to fall into lust too early. Sometimes, not being able to obtain something, not being able to see it, can give birth to an even stronger motivation. For example, during the time when you were separated, you improved at a godly speed. Maybe Qin Wenyin did the same as well. That was why he came to the immortal realms so quickly and came to the royal palace. Hence, even if you blame father, I still insist on my opinion. If there comes a day when your strength reaches my level, you can make any choice you want. But now, I don't support you. Chongqing the Great spoke his mind. Qing'er was speechless. She couldn't blame Chongqing the Great for his feelings. This can also become my motivation. I will avoid delaying my own cultivation. He won't do so either. Although Qing'er understood Chongqing the Great's thoughts, her voice was still stubborn. Just like what Chongqing the Great had said, women were more easily influenced by their emotions. Since they were already deeply in love, it was easier said than done to make her come out. She couldn't do it. You won't? Chongqing the Great said in disappointment, martial arts is only one of the reasons why I don't support you. Do you want to hear the more important reason? Qing'er nodded her head lightly. If at this moment, you and Qin Wenyin are in danger, and he is facing a life and death crisis, the current you can sacrifice yourself to save him. Would you do that? Chongqing the Great's tone became heavier and more solemn. Qing'er's body trembled slightly as she stared at Chongqing the Great. Would she? Of course she would. You've already told me the answer. Chongqing the Great bitterly smiled. I already know about the incident at the Dongshengshan Gate. In the city of ancient emperors, Qin Wenyin caused a huge commotion. There were many times when he encountered danger, and you were always by his side, fighting side by side with him. You even killed the descendants of immortal emperors and fought against Zi Daoyang. If this isn't enough to prove anything, what about in the future when Qin Wenyin ascends to immortality and encounters even more dangerous situations? Would you choose to flee? Chongqing the Great asked. I won't, Qing'er calmly replied. Chongqing the Great naturally knew the answer to this question. Chongqing the Great turned his head and stared at a mural in the Great Hall. There was a peerlessly beautiful middle-aged woman smiling faintly, exuding a beauty so beautiful that it could topple empires. She actually bore a striking resemblance to Qing'er. I'm not proficient in spatial energy. Your talent in spatial energy was inherited from your mother. You should also know that the energy sealed in your body was also left behind by her. You were only born when she died. Chongqing the Great's voice was ethereal, as though he had sunk into his memories. Qing'er fell silent. A moment later, Chongqing the Great continued, Qing'er, do you know how your mother died? I don't know. Qing'er shook her head. No one in the royal palace dared to mention her mother's death. She died for me. Chongqing the Great slowly turned. His eyes that were as deep as the stars stared at Qing'er. That calm voice of his caused Qing'er's heart to tremble violently once more. At this instant, Qing'er understood that it was impossible for her to sway Chongqing the Great's heart. Child, to me, your achievements in martial arts can only be ranked second. Your safety is more important than anything else. The evergreen immortal emperor solemnly spoke. I don't wish for what happened to your mother to happen to my daughter. Qin Wenyin doesn't have the ability to protect you. At the very least, he doesn't have the ability to do so now. If one day, when he has the ability to protect you, the door of the celestial nation will be open for him. Chongqing the Great said slowly, pouring out his heart to Qing'er. Without a doubt, Chongqing the Great was a good father, even if he didn't support Qing'er and Qin Wenyin. Qing'er couldn't refute anything. She didn't even have the qualifications to persuade Chongqing the Great to change his mind. How could she persuade him? The evergreen immortal emperor valued her life above everything else. Naturally, he valued her life above Qin Wenyin because Qing'er was his daughter. "Father!" Qing'er called out, her voice causing the gaze of the evergreen immortal emperor to stiffen as he stared at his daughter. "Thank you," Qing'er said in a low voice. Chongqing the Great also smiled. He was very happy to hear the word father and thank you. "I understand your love." Qing'er stared at the evergreen immortal emperor as she continued with a gentle smile. "However, I also have my own love. You can choose not to support me, but father, you can't oppose me either." Looking at the smile in Qing'er's eyes, Chongqing the Great was speechless for a long time. Chapter 992. The news of the discussion between Chongqing the Great and Princess Qing'er in the palace spread out. Many nobility characters were waiting to see how Chongqing the Great would react. Ever since Princess Qing'er was brought to the empire, many nobility characters had expressed their desire to woo her. However, Princess Qing'er had never paid any attention to them. Chongqing the Great's attitude also seemed to be laissez-faire. No one knew the exact attitude of the great emperor. They could only guess what he was thinking. This time, Princess Qing'er had brought her lover into the palace and even went to meet with the great emperor. In this case, no matter what, the great emperor would have to express his stance. Would the great emperor support the princess or reject her? If the great emperor agreed to the princess and Qin Wenyin being together, then no matter how many voices there were in the palace, it would be useless. Qin Wenyin would become the prince consort of the immortal empire with a single leap. Evidently, this was something that many nobility characters didn't want to see. In the Princess Chongping's residence, this aunt who had a close relationship with Princess Qing'er had already set up a banquet to welcome Qin Wenyin. After all, Qing'er had placed Qin Wenyin here. No matter what, she had to treat him well. At the banquet, Princess Chongping's husband and children were present as well. All of them curiously surveyed Qin Wenyin, asking about the news they wanted to know. Gradually, they gained some understanding of Qin Wenyin. Princess Chongping's husband was an immortal king character, the Scarlet Eye Immortal King. He was conferred the title of Scarlet Eye Marquis by the great emperor and could also be considered the prince consort of the immortal empire. Although Princess Chongping and the Scarlet Eye Immortal King weren't too strong, they still had a lot of authority in the palace. After all, Princess Chongping was the younger sister of the great emperor. Not only that, back then when the great emperor fought for the throne, she had also stood on his side. "Qin Wenyin, you are now famous. With a sweep of my immortal sense, your name is everywhere in the royal palace. In such a short period of time, even the servants and maids are talking about you." The Scarlet Eye Immortal King laughed heartily. Qin Wenyin smiled bitterly as he shook his head. "I also knew that Qing'er's entry into the royal palace would cause quite a commotion, but I didn't expect it to happen so quickly. I thought that it would take time for things to develop. You have to take a look at the people in the royal palace. There are nobility characters everywhere. Their immortal senses can traverse through space and enter the residences of others to communicate with them. Once the news spreads out, it would instantly sweep through all the major nobility residences." The Scarlet Eye Immortal King laughed. Qin Wenyin thought about it and agreed. After all, this place was the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. "What are the people in the palace talking about me about?" Qin Wenyin asked with a smile. "Let's talk about your cultivation level, your background, and where you came from." "That's all," the Scarlet Eye Immortal King said. "There must be many people who are filled with disdain towards me." Qin Wenyin smiled. He knew that there would be many doubtful voices. It was just that the Scarlet Eye Immortal King didn't care about his face and didn't say it out loud. "Do you feel the pressure?" The Scarlet Eye Immortal King stared at Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin was somewhat similar to him. The Scarlet Eye Immortal King was also the prince consort of the Evergreen Immortal King. Back then when he married Princess Chongping, there were many people who objected to him. Although his talent was very high, he couldn't be considered a peak-level character. Naturally, Princess Changping also didn't have the status of Princess Qing today. Right now, the evergreen immortal king was in charge of the empire and doted on Princess Qing. In addition to the fact that Qing had a powerful master, her status was unparalleled. Hence, the moment she brought Qin Wenyin into the royal palace, it caused a huge commotion. There's indeed pressure, but there are some things that cannot be changed by human strength. Since Qing brought me here, I shall face the pressure calmly. Qin Wenyin faintly spoke. Princess Changping and the Scarlet Eye Immortal King smiled at him, silently praising how mature Qin Wenyin was. It was truly rare for Qing and him to have such courage. However, just like what Qin Wenyin has said, there are some things that cannot be changed by human strength. For example, the attitude of the evergreen immortal king. Although they had high hopes for Qing and Qin Wenyin, they could only represent their stance. At this moment, a black-robed butler walked over and called out, "Princess Mar." "What's the matter?" Princess Changping asked. "Someone is here to pay a visit." The black-robed butler spoke. The Scarlet Eye Immortal King and Princess Changping swept out with their immortal senses. After that, a meaningful smile could be seen in their eyes as they glanced at Qin Wenyin. Many nobility residences have sent their juniors to scout the area. Qin Wenyin, you have to be mentally prepared. These people aren't good people. Princess Changping spoke to Qin Wenyin. After that, she turned to the black-robed butler and spoke, "Invite them to the banquet." "Yes, Prince." The butler nodded and departed. Not long after, over 10 young men walked over. All of them were young geniuses, descendants of nobility. They were all nobility characters of the royal palace, and most of them had a cultivation base at the 8th or 9th level of celestial phenomenon, the same generation as Qin Wenyin. Clearly, this was done intentionally. We pay our respects to Princess and Marquis. These people were extremely polite, bowing in the direction of Princess Changping and the Scarlet Eye Immortal King. "There's no need for you little fellows to be so polite. Quickly come and take a seat." Princess Changping smiled. Everyone walked towards the banquet and sat down. Only now did many people turn their gazes onto Qin Wenyin, their eyes gleaming with sharpness. Qin Wenyin lowered his head and sipped his wine. His state of mind was unmoved, allowing these people to assess him. "Princess, you actually invited us to this banquet as well? This really makes us juniors sad." A young beauty laughed, speaking in a joking tone. However, the first sentence of her sentence already went straight to the point, directly targeting Qin Wenyin. "You guys are usually very busy, I don't want to be blamed by your elders." Princess Changping spoke. "Princess, you speak against your heart. If Princess wants to invite us elders would be very happy." The voice of that beauty was gentle. After that, she turned to Qin Wenyin and asked, "Princess, you have yet to introduce us. This esteemed guest of your residence must be an extraordinary character, right?" There was a hidden meaning in her words. Clearly, she was asking even though she already knew the answer. "Qin Wenyin. All of you should already know his name. That last Qinger is still with me, I naturally have to receive him well." Princess Changping spoke. "That's true. Ever since Princess Qinger returned to the royal palace, this is the first time she brought an outsider here. All the major nobility residences are paying close attention to this. Brother Qin, since you are able to gain the favor of Princess, you must have a heaven-shaking identity, right? I wonder where you are from and which immortal emperor is your ancestor?" That beauty smiled at Qin Wenyin as she calmly asked. Princess Changping and the Scarlet Eye Immortal King both drank their wine and watched quietly. They didn't intentionally help Qin Wenyin out of this predicament. They have already reminded Qin Wenyin to be mentally prepared. These were all things he had to face. Qin Wenyin put down the wine cup in his hand. He stared at the beautiful beauty and replied, "I'm from a particle world, I don't have an illustrious identity." An expression of interest appeared on the face of the beauty, as though she just found out about this. Brother Qin is truly humorous. A blue-robed young man with eyebrows as sharp as swords inclined his head as he spoke. "This place is the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom, a place of nobility residences. Ordinary immortal kings aren't even allowed to enter. If Brother Qin is from a particle world, what qualifications does he have to sit here and enjoy the immortal banquet? That's right. Brother Qin is already here. Why the need to be secretive? Why don't you tell us the truth? A person at the side chimed in. When he spoke, his eyes gleamed with sharpness. Although he didn't say anything impolite, his words were filled with disrespect. It was as though he was implying that Qin Wenyan didn't have the qualifications to appear in the royal palace, let alone enjoy the immortal banquet. His words were simple, but there was a hidden meaning behind them. The young men stared at Qin Wenyan, waiting to see how he would reply. Brother Qin, have you attended any banquets in other important places before? Qin Wenyan didn't reply directly. That's only natural, someone replied. This is a common occurrence. Even if it's a banquet held by some important characters, I would still attend it occasionally. That beauty smiled. Brother Qin, do you all need to report your background and enter based on your identity? Qin Wenyan asked again. Those people laughed. One of them replied, that's only natural. For some places, you are just a junior. You can't rely on your talent to enter. Without an illustrious identity, you wouldn't even have the qualifications to attend the immortal banquet. This person intentionally emphasized his words and had a meaningful smile on his face. In other words, if you toss aside your identity, Brother Qin, you wouldn't have the qualifications to attend these banquets. Qin Wenyan calmly spoke. The same thing was expressed in a different way, and the meaning behind it was completely different. Qin Wenyan's words clearly contained a hint of mockery. Status and identity are also considered a halo on one's body. Someone coldly laughed, staring at Qin Wenyan with a heavy look in his eyes. That's only natural. Qin Wenyan laughed. But if you toss away the halo you have, you would only be a joke in the eyes of others. I didn't lie to Brother Qin. It's true that I came from a particle world. However, I don't feel that this is something shameful. In addition, I'm already attending the banquet. The princess and marquis are all very friendly. At the very least, they wouldn't mock me. However, this doesn't seem to be the result of Brother Qin's own capabilities. I heard that Brother Qin entered the royal palace together with Princess Qing. That beauty continued. You all are proud of the halo bestowed upon you by your ancestors. But could it be that the halo bestowed upon you by the princess is something that you all feel ashamed of? Qin Wenyan laughed. Or could it be that all of you are jealous of me? Brother Qin really knows how to joke. The voice of the beauty turned cold. Your words are sharp and your mouth is powerful. No wonder the princess dotes on you. A young man impolitely spoke. Qin Wenyan's countenance stiffened as he stared at the person who spoke. Brother Qin, don't be offended. This is how they are. They do whatever they want, saying whatever they want to say. The blue-robed young man spoke. Just like what Brother Qin has said, flowery words to gain the favor of the princess. Isn't this also part of Brother Qin's capabilities? Such capabilities will only cause people to look down on you. Someone interjected, not bothering to mask his words. Qin Wenyan coldly stared at them. These people were still laughing and joking with each other, as though they were intentionally trying to infuriate Qin Wenyan. If Qin Wenyan acted against them because of this, he would become a laughing stock. A smile appeared on Qin Wenyan's face. Infuriating him? What a joke! He lifted his wine cup and started drinking as the cold smile on his face remained. What are you laughing at? Someone questioned. I'm laughing at the nobility of our immortal empire. To think that the disciples of the royal palace are so shallow and ignorant. Qin Wenyan placed his wine cup down as a voice rang out. The eyes of everyone present were as sharp as swords as they shot towards Qin Wenyan. Chapter 993. Shallow and ignorant? The young man in blue stared at Qin Wenyan and laughed. This Qin Wenyan was truly able to maintain his composure. Despite their provocation, he could still remain so calm, not angering them. Not only that, he even retaliated with words. The princess and I came from the city of ancient emperors. There are countless geniuses in the city of ancient emperors, and there are plenty of people with statuses like you all. Qin Wenyin calmly spoke as he sipped his wine. The other young men all stared at him, waiting for him to continue. Among the descendants of the immortal kings and emperors in the city of ancient emperors, there are naturally many who are arrogant and have no one in their eyes. I, Qin, have seen plenty of people like you all. In fact, there are even people whose statuses are even more illustrious compared to you all. For example, the descendants of immortal kings and emperors. Qin Wenyin continued. Just because we went to the city of ancient emperors, we will become a topic of conversation for you all? Someone mocked. I'm not a topic of conversation. I just want to tell you all that I've personally seen the fates of many of those who have their eyes on the top of their heads. All of them died. Qin Wenyin glanced at them. He lifted his wine cup and sipped lightly as he continued, hence, I advise all of you not to act arrogantly in the outside world. It's fine if you act arrogantly in the royal palace, all the experts here would give way to you all. But once you leave the Evergreen Kingdom, I'm afraid. As he spoke until here, Qin Wenyin merely glanced at them. He didn't continue speaking, but the mocking intent in his eyes was extremely clear. Qin Wenyan's meaning was clear. The auras radiating from them abruptly turned cold. The words that Qin Wenyin didn't say out loud were, I'm afraid we wouldn't even know how we died. Are you insulting us? A young man coldly spoke. He placed his hand on his wine cup, and the wine cup directly disintegrated into dust, scattering onto the table. My status isn't high, how would I dare to do so? I'm merely speaking about my own experiences. Qin Wenyin calmly spoke, his tone as though he didn't care at all. In the city of ancient emperors where geniuses are as common as the clouds, even the descendants of immortal emperors rarely talk about their status. Today at Princess Changping's banquet, my horizons have truly been broadened. Princess and Marquis, if there's a chance, I hope you all can advise them not to let these juniors go out so easily. Princess Changping's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wenyin. It's extremely dangerous. Qin Wenyin spoke in a low voice. Shattering sounds rang out unceasingly as the wine cups in the hands of quite a few people shattered. Princess Changping's smile was as warm as ever. Seems like Qin Wenyan's state of mind was far more mature compared to these descendants of nobility and nobility, being able to maintain his composure. For those who came from a particle world, they would definitely have experienced many tempering experiences and humiliation. However, these descendants of nobility and nobility were different. They were pampered and spoiled since birth, and were filled with arrogance. This was especially so for those with outstanding talent. They were doted on and doted on. Within the immortal empire, who would dare to be disrespectful to them? Brother Qin's state of mind is extraordinary. I'm impressed. The blue-robed young man fell silent for a moment before a faint smile appeared on his face. It's just that Brother Qin claims to be a heaven's chosen in the city of ancient emperors. I wonder if your strength is worthy of your arrogance. If you have something to say, just say it. Qin Wenyin couldn't be bothered to waste his breath. We came to Princess Changping's residence to ask for a cup of wine. Now that we've seen a character like Brother Qin, we couldn't help but feel itchy and wish to spar with you. I'm sure given Brother Qin's demeanor, he wouldn't reject us. Princess, can we spar in the residence? That blue-robed young man stared at the princess as he spoke, not allowing Qin Wenyin to reject. Little brat Qin Wenyin is a guest. Why don't you ask for his opinion? Princess Changping's gaze landed on Qin Wenyin. This place is the royal palace of the immortal empire. All of you are descendants of kings and marquises, and there are as many experts here as the clouds. I'm alone, and if I were to injure all of you, you would have to beg your father and mother for help later. If that's the case, I would truly be out of luck. Impudent! One of them slammed his palm onto the table, causing it to shatter into pieces. Just a single slap was enough to turn it into dust. Qin Wenyin, how dare you insult us? That beautiful young woman also coldly spoke, staring at Qin Wenyin. This sentence of hers was truly an undisguised humiliation. If he were to injure them, they would have to beg their parents, grandfathers, and grannies? This man was simply too arrogant. Firstly, he was mocking them for being defeated, and secondly, he was mocking them for being unable to afford to lose. If you can injure us, we naturally have no complaints. We disdain asking our elders for help. But as for you, don't go pleading for mercy from Princess Chinga after you are injured. If that happens, Princess Chinga would take revenge on you. That would truly be a joke. Someone mocked. With just you guys? Qin Wendian laughed mockingly, but he didn't say anything else. However, his expression caused the other young men to be completely enraged. Qin Wendian, you have no one in your eyes. One of them coldly spoke. Come out and fight. Another person rushed out ferociously towards Qin Wendian. How sharp was Qin Wendian's senses? Although these people had decent innate talents, they couldn't be considered as top-tier heavens chosen. They should be ordinary heavens chosen from the various major residences of nobility. They were sent here to probe his background and even wanted to provoke him. But who would have thought that after a few sentences, they would be angered instead? Even if you are a guest of the princess, I'm afraid you have to be taught a lesson for your rudeness. A black-robed young man stood up and glared coldly at Qin Wendian. Princess, Marie, I'm sorry for the trouble. Qin Wendian looked at Princess Chongping and the Marquis with scarlet eye as he apologized. No worries, they are all juniors. Since they wish to spar, Qin Wendian, why don't you spar with them? Princess Chongping laughed. After that, she transmitted her voice to Qin Wendian. They came here to probe, but they don't have any malicious intentions towards you. It's fine to teach them a lesson, but don't injure them too severely. Qin Wendian glanced at Princess Chongping, exchanging a glance with her. He was very clear about this point. After all, this was the royal palace of the Immortal Empire. Even if he didn't want to make things difficult for Chinga, he couldn't go overboard. Since these people wanted to test him so much, he might as well teach them a lesson. Standing up, Qin Wendian walked towards an empty space at the side. He stood there calmly as he turned his gaze onto the other members of nobility. All of you can come at me together. Arrogant. Too arrogant. Let me deal with him. The black-robed young man stepped out, his countenance cold. His entire body circulated with the power of pitch-black lightning, exuding a terrifying destructive might. Seeing that Qin Wendian didn't move, he abruptly stomped on the ground, causing the earth to tremble. A tyrannical punch blasted out, enveloping Qin Wendian's body. Qin Wendian's entire body shimmered with runic light as his aura surged. Standing there, he resembled a towering mountain, akin to the boundless ocean, steady and steady. Are you courting death? That black-robed young man's fist blasted forth as terrifying lightning bolts blasted out. Crackling sounds rang out, unceasingly slamming into Qin Wendian's body. However, at this moment, Qin Wendian lifted his palm and blasted out. In that instant, that black-robed young man only felt as though his palm was like a five-fingered mountain, suppressing the heavens and earth. With a thunderous boom, his fist was directly suppressed as crackling sounds rang out from his arm. Rumble, a deafening explosion rang out. Qin Wendian's palm slammed downwards, directly slamming the black-robed young man onto the ground. The impact caused his entire body to be in intense pain as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. He inclined his head and stared at Qin Wendian with an incomparably cold gaze. A single strike. Qin Wendian directly suppressed him with a single palm strike. That palm strike seemed to contain an unparalleled might, capable of shattering mountains and collapsing the heavens. It was unstoppable. The countenances of the other young men froze as they stared fixedly at Qin Wendian. Such strength had far surpassed their imaginations. They were all geniuses with powerful combat prowess. How could they be so weak that they couldn't even withstand a single strike? Seems like what I said earlier was right. Other than your clan background, you guys really don't have anything else you can bring out. Qin Wendian mocked. I already said let's fight together. Your current strength is simply insufficient. I can kill you with a single palm strike. Intolerable bullying. Since Brother Qin has such combat prowess, we won't be polite then. The blue-robed young man directly interrupted the young man beside him. He knew that if they didn't join forces to deal with Qin Wendian, they would have no chance at all. In order to win, They could only throw away some face and join forces. No need to be polite. If you are too polite, I won't be able to bear to injure you guys. Qin Wendian laughed. From the start till the end, he was as carefree as the wind, exuding an air of arrogance that towered up to the clouds. Everyone was completely enraged. One by one, they released their constellations to augment their strength. In an instant, a resplendent light illuminated this entire space, shaking the entire area. The blue-robed young man spoke. A moment later, everyone attacked at the same time. A resplendent saber directly cleaved down, causing the void to feel as though it was about to be split apart. Fearsome sword chi manifested, transforming into a terrifying vortex that emitted thunderous sounds, capable of ripping apart everything. There were also greater demons that shook the heavens, howling in rage, wanting nothing more than to devour Qin Wendian whole. In an instant, the wind and clouds changed. All sorts of destructive attacks gushed forth, enveloping Qin Wendian within. The sky turned dark, there was simply no way for him to dodge. That fellow is too arrogant. The Scarlet Eye Marquis spoke in a low voice. Although Qin Wendian was powerful, these people weren't mediocre either. They were all people with true strength. Being able to travel all the way here from a particle world, how can they be ordinary characters? These little fellows are the ones who are too arrogant, allowing themselves to be used as scouts. The smarter ones are all watching from the back. Princess Chongping smiled. It was as though she trusted Qin Wendian very much. At this moment, the attacks of the various experts simultaneously blasted over. Qin Wendian's entire body circulated with boundless light as a supreme suppressive might engulfed the entire space. He lifted his palms and abruptly, the terrifying shadow of a greater demon appeared. This was a divine elephant, incomparably gigantic, exuding boundless demonic might. In an instant, the attacks of the various experts were all halted there, unable to break through. Is your strength only limited to this? Qin Wendian lifted the heavens and earth with a single hand, suppressing the attacks of the various experts. With a cold laugh, he directly blasted out with his palm as a boundless might engulfed the heavens and earth. Numerous terrifying rock silhouettes appeared, instantly shooting out with the speed of lightning. Thunderous rumbling sounds echoed out, and in just an instant, all the descendants of nobility were injured, staggering backwards. There were even those with weaker cultivation bases who coughed out blood, their countenances pale with unsightly expressions. Can't even withstand a single strike. Qin Wendian flicked his sleeves and placed his hands behind his back. He stepped out and returned to his seat. The expressions of the various experts were extremely ugly to behold. They stared at Princess Chongping. Princess Mardu, this junior bids farewell. After speaking, the group of them directly departed. They didn't have the face to remain here any longer. Chapter 994. After everyone left, Qin Wendian returned to his seat. The Scarlet Eye Marquis lifted his wine cup and pointed it at Qin Wendian. Brat, you are awesome, being able to easily defeat over 10 experts of the same generation. Let me offer you a toast. Marquis is too polite. Qin Wendian hurriedly raised his cup and drained it in a single gulp. The Scarlet Eye Marquis placed his cup down and smiled at Qin Wendian. I'm not being polite. Although these little fellows aren't at the peak of their generation, their talent is extraordinary. You were able to defeat them so effortlessly. From this, one can see how tyrannical your strength is. Most probably in the entire royal palace, there aren't many in the same generation who can contend against you. The Scarlet Eye Marquis was an immortal king expert. When Qin Wendian fought earlier, his aura was majestic and there seemed to be waves of terrifying might within him. The feeling he gave off was akin to that of a primordial demon. It was very rare to see someone below the immortal foundation realm exuding such a fearsome aura. His fleshly body was extremely powerful and his vitality was boundless, easily dominating those of the same generation. The news of the battle soon circulated out. The various residences in the royal palace all received news of it as different voices rang out. This man is so brazen and has no one in his eyes, humiliating the juniors of the nobility clan. He's incomparably tyrannical, disregarding the royal palace and his words. This Qin Wenyan truly has decent strength. No wonder he could gain the favor of Princess Qin Wenyan. Seems like other than a select few in the royal palace, there aren't many in the same generation who can defeat him. Asking father and mother to beg for help when you're injured? This child is actually so rude and has no upbringing. This is simply preposterous. This Qin Wenyan is awesome. No wonder Princess Qing'er likes him. His personality is tyrannical and I think highly of him. Some people think that only their juniors have a chance to get close to Princess Qing'er. Are they even qualified? Princess Qing'er's judgment isn't bad at all. In the various residences of the nobility clan, Qin Wentian's name continued to appear. Everyone had different attitudes towards Qin Wenyan. But at this moment, a startling voice rang out from the Cloud King Manor. Qin Wenyan has nothing in his eyes. Even with the princess's favor, he still dared to disrespect Xia Lian of the Everpeace Marquis Manor. How despicable! After that, he even caused a huge commotion in the Everpeace Marquis Manor. The princess was too young and lacked wisdom. She actually killed the daughter of the Everpeace Marquis for this lecture. Qin Wenyan is the #1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings in the City of Ancient Emperors. Because of his talent, he doesn't have anyone in his eyes. He even bewitched Princess Qing'er and came to the Evergreen Immortal Empire, wanting to become the prince consort of the Evergreen Immortal Empire. When Qin Wenyan was a guest in the Evergreen Marquis Manor, he dared to take liberties with Xia Lian behind Princess Qing'er's back. In the end, Xia'er died tragically. With his talent, why would he care about nobility? He even dared to humiliate Princess Qing'er. Princess Qing'er has already fallen for him. He believes that he will definitely become the prince consort of the Evergreen Marquis, and in the future, he wants to be above nobility. The Cloud King is enraged and is preparing to personally report to the Evergreen Immortal Emperor. We mustn't allow Princess Qing'er to continue being bewitched by this thief. If not, the consequences would be unimaginable. Numerous voices rang out from the Cloud King Manor, engulfing the entire royal capital. Very swiftly, the entire royal palace was shaken. Discussions about Qin Wenyan could be heard everywhere. Let alone the people of the nobility residences, even the guards were discussing about Qin Wenyan. So he's the #1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings. His talent is truly outstanding. No wonder he's so arrogant, daring to humiliate the disciples of the nobility residences, and even telling them to beg for mercy if they lose. Do you know the weight of the #1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings? The people on the Immortal Ascension rankings are all geniuses at the peak of the immortal realms. The #1 ranker means that he can sweep through everything. It's very easy to understand why Qin Wenyan is so arrogant. He basically doesn't place the geniuses of the royal palace in his eyes. He doesn't care about nobility at all. What a good #1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings. His talent is tyrannical, and in addition to the support of Princess Qing'er, he really doesn't even care about nobility. As long as the Evergreen Immortal Emperor nods his head, the position of prince consort would be his. The discussions in the royal palace were all one-sided. Naturally, these voices didn't originate from those of the nobility residences. What sort of statuses did those with nobility status have? Even if they had such thoughts in their hearts, they wouldn't easily voice them out. The majority of the voices were from the people of the nobility residences. The vast majority of people felt that Qin Wenyan relied on his talent and his relationship with Princess Qing'er to do whatever he wanted. After all, this place was the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. To the various nobility residences, Qin Wenyan was still an outsider. Given Qin Wentian's talent as the #1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, once the Evergreen Immortal Emperor favored him and he became the prince consort, his status would instantly skyrocket. In the future, when he became a nobility, he would be able to suppress all the other kings and dukes. In addition, Charlene from the Everpeace Marquis Manor had truly died. The daughter of the Cloud King brought Charlene's corpse here, causing them to feel even more enraged. No matter what, Charlene was still the granddaughter of the nobility residences. How could they not be enraged that she was killed because of an outsider? If something like this happened again in the future, could it be that Qin Wenyan would also dare to kill a descendant of the nobility residences? Wouldn't that be lawless and out of control? No one would be able to suppress him. Princess Qing'er has been in the royal palace for quite some time. Seems like she is having a secret discussion with the evergreen immortal emperor. I wonder what his attitude is since she hasn't come out yet. Countless gazes were focused on the central royal palace. No matter how many voices there were in the royal palace, they wouldn't be as important as the voice of the evergreen immortal emperor. A single sentence from the evergreen immortal emperor could decide everything. If he supported Princess Qing'er and Qin Wenyan, then no matter how loud the voices in the royal palace were, the nobility residences would support the evergreen immortal emperor's decision, suppressing all doubts. At the banquet in the Princess Chongping Manor, Princess Chongping and the Scarlet Eye Marquis didn't forget to use their powerful immortal sense to monitor the voices in the surroundings. At this moment, Princess Chongping smiled at Qin Wenyan. It seems that the voices in the royal palace are somewhat disadvantageous to you. Little brat Qin, no wonder you are so powerful. You are actually the #1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings in the City of Ancient Emperors. Even our Evergreen Kingdom has never produced such an outstanding character. Come, let me toast you again. The Scarlet Eye Marquis was extremely straightforward. Qin Wenyan naturally accompanied him and drained his cup in a single gulp. The Cloud King is truly scheming. Princess Chongping continued. The news of you being the #1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings in the City of Ancient Emperors should only be known by you and Qing'er. The people in the royal palace naturally wouldn't be able to find out about this within such a short period of time. You guys should have already leaked this information to the Everpeace Marquis, right? Qin Wenyan nodded. Before this, not only did the Cloud King Manor conceal this matter, but after you defeated those juniors, they revealed this piece of news to you. In addition to the death of Charlene, they directly said that you had nothing in your eyes, not even having kings and marquises in your eyes. You had no way to defend yourself, and the public opinion of the royal palace naturally leaned towards one side. Princess Chongping slowly spoke, her words causing Qin Wenyan to furrow his brows. They are simply jealous. The Scarlet Eye Marquis coldly spoke. Jealousy is the nature of humans. He was the first person Qing'er brought into the royal palace, and this is already enough to cause people to be jealous. In addition to the fact that he's the #1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, as well as the earlier incident with Charlene, they wouldn't care about the specifics of what happened. They would only think of it as their own opinions. Princess Chongping's words pierced through the hearts of the people. If my talent was weak, I would be viewed as useless and wouldn't have the qualifications to enter the royal palace. But if my talent was good, I would be viewed as having no regard for the nobility. Qin Wenyan shook his head and bitterly smiled, as though he was mocking himself. That's right, Qing'er brought you into the royal palace. This is the original sin. It's only natural that they would feel such pressure. Princess Chongping laughed. Qin Wenyan was also an intelligent man. He naturally understood that an outsider like him was able to enter the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom and was even together with Princess Qing'er, the most doted on by the Evergreen Emperor. Who wouldn't be jealous of him? What exactly happened to Charlene's death? I believe in Qing'er. She wouldn't kill people for no reason, let alone in the Everpeace Marquis manner, Princess Chongping asked. Qin Wenyan explained everything. Qing'er was enraged because of you. It's best if she killed Charlene. In that case, Charlene's death couldn't wipe out her crimes. I'm afraid even Marquis Madame might not have told the truth to her father. After all, Charlene's death is a fact. Everyone would sympathize with her, the Cloud King, and the Everpeace Marquis. Princess Chongping sneered. She didn't expect the daughter of the Cloud King to be so arrogant and domineering. She didn't even put Qing'er in her eyes. She even dared to kill Qin Wenyan in front of Qing'er. She was too presumptuous. This is simply insubordination. Does the Cloud King think that the Emperor would believe him and not Qing? The Marquis Scarlet Eye sneered. That's why the Cloud King released the news to pressure Qin Wenyan. He naturally knows that he can't do anything to Qing'er and can only deal with Qin Wenyan. Even if he can't do anything to Qin Wenyan, he has to destroy the relationship between Qing'er and Qing'e. After all, this grudge has already been formed. Princess Changping continued. Qin Wenyan secretly thought that Princess Changping was extremely intelligent and could see through everything. The princess has left the Emperor Palace. At this moment, a voice rang out. From the direction of the Emperor Palace, a beautiful silhouette could be seen flying towards Princess Changping's residence. Princess Qing'er's countenance was as cold as ever, and no one could tell what she was thinking. In an instant, the news of Princess Qing'er leaving the Emperor Palace spread like wildfire. The princess went in alone and spoke with the emperor for a long time before coming out alone. The emperor didn't summon Qin Wenyan. This caused many people to speculate about the emperor's intentions. Not summoning Qin Wenyan indicated that the emperor didn't approve of Qin Wenyan. Since Princess Qing'er had failed, the emperor might not agree to it. I knew it. The emperor is so wise and wise, how would he allow an arrogant fellow to enter the princess' residence so easily? This person doesn't even place nobility in his eyes. If he really becomes the prince consort, what would happen then? In the royal palace of the empire, many of the nobles and marquises heaved a sigh of relief. If the evergreen immortal emperor summoned Qin Wenyan, their hearts would definitely tremble. Now that the evergreen immortal emperor has agreed, the Cloud King wouldn't be able to do anything about it. However, there was a high possibility that the emperor was observing. After all, the emperor doted on Princess Qing'er the most and wouldn't do anything to Qin Wenyan. Even if the emperor didn't agree, he wouldn't forcefully separate them. Just when the royal palace was in discussion, Qing'er arrived at Princess Changping's residence. Qin Wenyan inclined his head and stared at Qing'er, only to see that Qing'er was as cold as ever. She walked to his side and looked at him, as though she wanted to say something, but she didn't know what to say. "It's fine." Qin Wenyan smiled. He was already mentally prepared when he came to the royal palace. No matter what attitude the Changqing the Great had, he wouldn't care. He also didn't have any hopes of directly obtaining the emperor's approval to propose marriage. Although Qin Wenyan was confident in himself, he wasn't arrogant to that extent. What qualifications did he have to propose marriage? Accompanying Qing'er to the royal palace was merely to express his attitude, to announce to the world that he existed. Chapter 995. Qing'er felt some sadness in her heart when she saw the smile on Qin Wentian's face. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a stubborn look as she stared at Princess Changping. "Aunt, we will temporarily stay in your residence. Can you arrange a courtyard for us?" Princess Changping started. Her eyes flickered as she felt shock in her heart. She stared at Qing'er, only to see Qing'er staring back at her. This caused Princess Changping to sigh in her heart. Seems like this lass's stubbornness is very deep. "Fine, if your father blames you, I will say that this is your own idea." Princess Changping shook her head. "Hm." Qing'er nodded in response. Princess Changping ordered her servants to tidy up a courtyard with an extremely good environment. After that, she led Qin Wenyan and Qing'er over as she spoke. "The environment here is very elegant and there are many rooms available. Both of you can choose one each." After speaking, she cast a deep glance at Qing'er. Qing'er didn't seem to understand her meaning. She didn't say anything and only nodded her head lightly. After that, Princess Changping turned and left. "Qing'er, I'm fine. You don't have to do this." Qin Wenyan felt touched in his heart. He knew Qing'er's intentions. Stay in the royal palace for a few days. Qing'er inclined her head and stared at Qin Wenyan. Staring at her gaze, how could Qin Wenyan bear to reject? He nodded. "Okay, I will accompany you for a period of time. I will make my decision after I break through to Immortal Foundation." To Qin Wenyan, he had another important goal now. That was to break through to Immortal Foundation. It didn't matter where he did it. Why not stay in the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom? As for the nobility of the royal palace, he didn't care about it. In the royal palace, in the residences of the various nobility. What? Princess Changping wants Qin Wenyan to stay in Princess Changping's residence? Moreover, The two of them even live in the same courtyard? Princess Qing'er has deep emotions. She doesn't care about her reputation, she wants to let the people of the royal palace know of her determination. Bastard, who is this Qin Wenyan exactly? He actually managed to coax Princess Changping to fall in love with him. If Princess Changping can treat me like this, I would even be willing to die. A young genius roared in reluctance. This place was the royal palace of the evergreen immortal empire. What status did Princess Qing have? She had her own princess residence in the royal palace. She knew that it wouldn't be good for her to go against the will of the evergreen immortal emperor and bring Qin Wenyan into the royal palace. Hence, she chose to stay together with Qin Wenyan in Princess Changping's residence. By doing this, Princess Qing'er's reputation would be tarnished. After all, her status was there for all to see. The eyes of the entire royal palace were on her. The Cloud King has entered the Emperor Palace. He wants to meet with the Emperor. At this moment, there was a huge commotion in the royal palace. In the air above the royal palace, an imposing figure could be seen flying towards the Emperor Palace. The guards didn't dare to obstruct him. The Cloud King was a character who had already been conferred the title of king. He had contributed greatly to the fight for the throne and had immense authority. He could directly enter the Emperor Palace. Only those who entered the Forbidden Palace would have to report to the Emperor. Yun Ting seeks an audience with the Emperor. Outside the Forbidden Palace, the Cloud King couldn't enter directly like Qing. He could only seek an audience from outside. Cloud King, what's the matter? The voice of the Emperor rang out. Qin Wenyan bewitched Her Highness with evil intentions. My granddaughter, Charlene, died because of him. Please punish Qin Wenyan. The Cloud King naturally didn't dare to criticize Qing. He just wanted to punish Qin Wenyan. If the Emperor had agreed to Qing'er and Qin Wenyan, he wouldn't have come to the imperial palace. However, the Emperor didn't seem to agree. Moreover, Princess Qing'er was extremely stubborn. She even moved to Princess Changping's residence to be with Qin Wenyan. In the eyes of the Cloud King, the princess was being willful and rash. She was challenging the Emperor. At this time, the Emperor might also be prejudiced against Qin Wenyan. Although the Cloud King was a nobility, he wouldn't be blinded by hatred. It wasn't a big deal for the juniors to cause trouble, but before knowing the Emperor's attitude as a nobility, they acted recklessly against Qin Wenyan. If the Emperor was displeased, it would be terrible. After all, Qin Wenyan had been brought to the imperial palace by the princess. I already know about Charlene's death. She was indeed in the wrong. Qing'er brought Qin Wenyan to Chang'an-ho as a guest, but she insulted Qin Wenyan and wanted to kill Qin Wenyan. However, she is already dead. You should know who is in the right and who is in the wrong. I won't say anything more. Cloud King, focus on your cultivation and break through to the Emperor realm as soon as possible. Don't worry about the juniors. The Emperor's voice rang out. The Cloud King's heart was as clear as a mirror. He bowed and said, Yes, Emperor. Yun Ting will take his leave. As soon as he finished speaking, the Cloud King turned around and left without saying another word. Since the Emperor had said so, he should know what to do. The Cloud King returned to his residence. No one dared to touch Qin Wenyan. It was rumored that the Emperor's intention was that the nobility should not interfere in the matters of the juniors. The Emperor's attitude seemed to be clear. He did not support the relationship between Qin Wenyan and Qing'er, but because of his love for the princess, he did not strongly oppose it. Everything would take its course. The Emperor's love for Princess Qing'er is indeed unparalleled. Many people sighed. How hateful! The princess' heart was now seized by an outsider. With the great Emperor's declaration, the voices in the manor of the marquises were gradually silenced. The Marchioness of Chang and brought Charlene's corpse back and left with hatred. However, she was helpless. No one dared to act forcefully in the royal palace, not to mention that she was merely the Marchioness of Chang. If she were to be unreasonable, she would implicate the manor of the cloud. In the Princess Changping residence, the courtyard where Qing'er and Qin Wenyan were staying in was enveloped by a layer of formless runic light. This seemed to be a formation to block out immortal senses. In the royal palace, there were many such formations in all the residences. No one liked to be disturbed and exposed to immortal senses. After the formation was activated, immortal senses could still barge in. But if the formation was broken, it would alert the people in the residence, and that would be considered a provocation. Usually, no one would do such a thing. The environment of this courtyard was indeed very good. It was specially chosen by Princess Chongping. It spanned over 10 miles and there were mountains, rivers, pavilions and lakes. Fish could be seen swimming about in the lake. Qin Wendian was currently angling. Although the commotion outside was intense, he wanted to be at peace. Angling would allow him to focus and cultivate his mind, allowing him to calm his heart as soon as possible so that he could break through to immortal foundation. Qing'er sat beside Qin Wendian, resembling an immortal couple. Both of them were extremely outstanding people. Father is worried that I might be trapped by love and it might affect my cultivation. Qing'er stared at the ripples in the lake as she spoke in a low voice. I understand His Majesty's thoughts. Qin Wendian smiled. Although my talent isn't bad, in the immortal realms, celestial phenomenon ascendance can only be considered weak. Immortal foundation is merely the starting point. His Majesty is also worried that you might encounter danger if you were to follow me. Qing'er turned her head and glanced at Qin Wendian. She only saw a faint smile on Qin Wendian's face. He was also an intelligent man. How could he not understand His Majesty's thoughts? His Majesty not forcefully objecting was already an extraordinary display of magnanimity. No matter how outstanding his talent was, anyone in the royal palace could easily kill him. Although he had the talent to become an immortal emperor in the future, there would be many trials and tribulations on the path to immortal foundation. No matter how high his talent was, the probability of him dying was still extremely high. Am I really so handsome? Qin Wendian smiled when he saw Qing'er staring at him. His words caused Qing'er to roll her eyes at him before turning her gaze back to the lake. After the baptism of the sacred luminance, our cultivation bases would stabilize. It shouldn't be difficult for us to break through to immortal foundation. After that, will you return to our particle world? Qing'er asked. I will. Qin Wendian nodded. Bring me along then. I will accompany you to fetch Qingqing. Qing'er's voice was gentle, causing Qin Wendian to feel moved in his heart. If His Majesty knew about Qingqing, what would his attitude be? Even Qing'er herself didn't dare to say. The pressure they were facing now was much greater than what they had imagined. Although it was normal for experts in the immortal realms to have many wives and concubines, what status did Qing'er have? What status did the immortal emperor have? Even the nobles in the royal palace would want to kill him if they knew about this. Qing'er was the only one who didn't care. Qing'er. Qin Wendian gently called out. Qing'er turned her gaze over only to see Qin Wendian's eyes were filled with gentleness, as though he wanted to melt her. Qing'er averted her gaze, not daring to look directly into Qin Wendian's eyes. At this moment, Qin Wendian leaned his head forward. Qing'er's gaze froze as her heartbeat quickened. After that, Qin Wendian kissed her on the lips. A strange feeling bloomed in Qing'er's heart as her heart palpitated even more violently. Qin Wendian swiftly shifted his gaze away, staring at the cold beauty before him. At this moment, his face was flushed red. His heart was filled with boundless emotions. Qing'er, I will definitely marry you in a glorious manner. I won't let the princess of an immortal empire suffer any grievances. Qin Wendian's eyes were filled with resolution. Qing'er averted her gaze and looked forward. She did her best to restrain her emotions and remained expressionless, yet waves of warmth flowed through her heart. Is this the feeling of love? I'll go and rest first. Qing'er stood up and slipped away. With her back facing Qin Wendian, her eyes shone with a radiant light. Qin Wendian was still fishing. His fishing rod swayed, yet it was as though he didn't hear it. It was unknown where his heart had floated to. He licked his lips, as though he was still reminiscing about that cold and beautiful countenance, as well as the feeling he had felt when he touched her. Today, countless geniuses in the royal palace couldn't sleep. They knew that Qing'er and Qin Wendian were staying in the same courtyard, and they had no idea what would happen. They wanted nothing more than to tear Qin Wendian into pieces. That was an incomparably cold and arrogant princess. She had a noble status, outstanding talent, and a peerless countenance. When they thought of the possibility that the pure and unblemished princess might be taken away by that bastard Qin Wenin, they felt as though countless ants were crawling over their hearts. However, they were helpless. The immortal emperor didn't say anything. Could it be that they would rush over and separate the two of them? On the second day, there were still countless people paying attention to the movements in the Princess Chongping residence. Today, there were already people who delivered an invitation to Princess Chongping's residence. This invitation was sent out from the Qi King Manor. Not only was it sent to Princess Chongping's residence, it was also sent to the various residences of nobility, inviting the younger generations to attend the banquet. Not only that, Qin Wenyan was also invited. The crown prince of the Qi King Manor has exited his seclusion. He was trying to break through to Immortal Foundation, but now he can't help but exit his seclusion? Seems like it's all because of Qin Wenyan. The crown prince of the Qi King Manor has just exited his seclusion. He has always been an admirer of Princess Qing. The hearts of countless people trembled. This time around, Qin Wenyan finally had a worthy opponent. The crown prince of the Qi King Manor had outstanding talent and had returned from the city of ancient emperors several years ago. It was said that he was ranked within the top 5 in the Immortal Ascension rankings. Now that he has been in seclusion for so long, it was unknown how powerful he was now. Chapter 996. In Princess Chongping's residence, Qin Wenyan stared at the invitation in his hand as he spoke in a low voice. The Qi King Manor. Qing'er walked to his side and spoke. The crown prince of the Qi King Manor, Yang'an, came back from the city of ancient emperors many years ago. It said that he was ranked number 5 on the Immortal Ascension rankings back then and has been in closed-door seclusion ever since, trying to break through to Immortal Foundation. Now, he must be even stronger than before. Let me accompany you. I'll go by myself. The Immortal Emperor told the Cloud King not to interfere with the juniors. In the royal palace, those people from the nobility manor wouldn't dare to do anything to me. The invitation didn't include you, princess. If I bring you along, wouldn't others laugh at me? Qin Wenyan smiled. Don't worry, I can handle it. Qing'er stared at Qin Wenyan's face as she nodded her head lightly. If they go overboard, they can return here immediately. Emichim. Qin Wenyan nodded. He held onto Qing'er's dainty hand. Qing'er's hand trembled slightly, but she didn't struggle and allowed him to hold her hand. I'm someone who is going to marry a princess of an immortal empire. How can I allow others to look down on me? Qin Wenyan joked. At noon, the Qi King Manor in the royal palace was extremely lively. Many members of the nobility clan had received invitations and came over. They either rode on immortal weapons or rode on greater demons, exuding an imposing aura. Outside the Qi King Manor, the roars of many greater demons could be heard. Many of these greater demons were pure-blooded mutated beasts that had the same cultivation bases as their masters. They had grown up together with them. The Qi King was a character who had been conferred the title of king in the immortal empire. He was extremely powerful and was a peak-stage immortal king expert. The Qi King Manor also had an extraordinary status in the royal palace. Now that the crown prince of the Qi King Manor, Yang'an, had sent out an invitation to deal with Qin Wenyan, the number of people attending the banquet was extremely high. Outside the manor, the young geniuses discussed. One of them asked, "Is Qin Wenyan here yet?" "I don't think he's here yet. I wonder if he'll attend the banquet," another person replied. Perhaps he will come to the banquet, but I'm afraid he will bring Princess Qing'er with him." The person who spoke earlier coldly snorted. At this moment, several voices rang out. The gazes of the crowd turned to a certain direction, including the two who spoke earlier. "It's Qin Wenyan." "Is he Qin Wenyan? It seems that he is just SOS. What kind of useless demonic beast is this mount? He's so chubby. He actually has a pet?" Everyone spoke. The person Qin Wenyan sat down on was Little Rascal. He didn't transform, he only caused his body to grow larger. His chubby body exuded a sense of cuteness, but that was only in the eyes of a daughter. In such a situation, it was somewhat comical. The demonic pet's eyes were huge and flickered continuously as it looked around. Looking at the surrounding greater demons, its chubby body swaggered forward with bright eyes. "Brother Qin, this demonic beast of yours is so adorable." There was a female beside Qin Wenyin. The demonic beast she was sitting on was a ferocious bird with fiery red wings. Its eyes gleamed with a terrifying light. This was a crimson blood roc, a descendant of the Great Roc, possessing the pure bloodline of the Great Roc. "This pet is so chubby, can I borrow it to play with it for a few days?" Another young man laughed. He was sitting on a ferocious white tiger that exuded a fearsome, baleful aura. It stared at Little Rascal and let out a low roar. Several young men surrounded Qin Wenyin. The greater demons they were sitting on kept roaring as a terrifying demonic might engulfed this entire space. Would this little fellow be afraid? Ha! Everyone laughed, intentionally using their demonic beasts to get closer to Little Rascal. "Little Rascal, you are being looked down upon by others." Qin Wenyin laughed as he patted Little Rascal on its head. Little Rascal's eyes shone with a bright light, not showing any signs of fear at all. It then spoke in a baby voice, "Fight with them, that way I can eat their demonic beasts. There are so many greater demons here, they would surely be delicious." Everyone was stunned when they heard Little Rascal's words. After which they all started laughing uproariously. "Brother Qin, this pet of yours hasn't weaned yet, right? Haha, this pet is simply too adorable, it doesn't even know it's afraid. It probably doesn't know that these demonic beasts can swallow it whole in a single gulp." Everyone laughed, feeling that this was extremely interesting. "AI, Little Rascal doesn't know any better. Brothers, please don't blame it." Qin Wenyan clasped his fists to the crowd. He sat on Little Rascal's back and rubbed its head. "Little Rascal, seems like I have to nourish you later. Only then would you be able to grow up faster." "Go to hell." Little Rascal cursed in a low voice, glaring hatefully at the demonic beasts in the surroundings. Although these greater demons were mounts, they were all capable of understanding human emotions. All of them had fiendish expressions on their faces as they stared at Little Rascal, as though they were intentionally trying to scare it. "Don't scare me, this Bao isn't afraid of you all." Little Rascal pointed its claws at the demonic beasts as it arrogantly inclined its head. Those greater demons all had expressions of interest on their faces. What an interesting fellow. The group of them entered the Qi King Manor. A guard led them in and Qin Wenyan observed the people in the surroundings. The majority of these people were at the Celestial Phenomenon realm, and there were also a few Immortal Foundation experts among them. They were all extremely young Immortal Foundation characters with extraordinary talent. A banquet was already prepared in the Qi King Manor. Many people had already arrived and were seated. Qin Wenyan turned his gaze to the person in the lead. That person had a jade-like countenance and radiated vitality. His eyes gleamed with sharpness, and although his aura was retracted, Qin Wenyan could still sense an extraordinary aura from him. It was as though he had already surpassed the Celestial Phenomenon realm and stepped into Immortal Foundation. The Crown Prince of the Qi King entered closed-door seclusion after exiting the city of Ancient Emperors. Seems like he has already established his Immortal Foundation. Qin Wenyan silently mused. Many people could sense the aura exuding from the Crown Prince of the Qi King. Yang and someone asked, "The Crown Prince has already become an immortal?" "That's right, the Crown Prince of the Qi King, Yang, has already broken through to Immortal Foundation. Our Evergreen Kingdom has yet another character who became an immortal within 100 years of age." Someone replied, Congrats. The Crown Prince is awesome. If he had stayed in the city of Ancient Emperors back then, he would definitely be ranked #1 in the Immortal Ascension rankings." Everyone congratulated him, and there were even some who felt jealousy in their hearts. Immortal Foundation was a watershed, and becoming an immortal within 100 years of age was another hurdle. Yang managed to become an immortal within 100 years of age, and he would definitely be highly regarded. Someone glanced at Qin Wenyan. Seems like Yang and didn't intentionally come out of seclusion for Qin Wenyan. It was just a coincidence. He had already broken through to Immortal Foundation and coincidentally met Qin Wenyan. Hence, he decided to set up this banquet. Everyone is too polite. Quickly, let's enter the banquet. Yang smiled as everyone took their seats. Qin Wenyan casually found a seat at the back and sat down, appearing extremely carefree. Since he was already here, he might as well take things as they come. No matter what Yang An's cultivation base was, it had nothing to do with him. Since Yang An invited him, he would naturally come and enjoy the food and drinks. Everyone seemed to be chatting very happily earlier. Yang An asked. We were talking about Brother Qin's pet. This pet is too adorable, and it even said that the greater demons we ride on would definitely be delicious. This is the first time I've seen such a foolish fellow. He doesn't even know fear. He simply doesn't know the immensity of the heavens and earth, and doesn't know what kind of existences are around him. Someone glanced at Qin Wenyan, as though there was a double meaning in his words. Only then did Yang An turn his gaze onto Qin Wenyan. He smiled. This must be Brother Qin, right? You just came out of seclusion and Brother Qin's name keeps ringing in my ears. Since you're able to become the top ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, you must be an extraordinary character. Crown Prince is too polite, Qin Wenyan replied. I wonder who were the top rankers of the Immortal Ascension rankings when Brother Qin came out? Back then when I was around, there were a few extremely powerful characters. For example, Zi Daoyang, the son of Zidi. When I left, Zi Daoyang was already the top ranker. He should have already left the Immortal Ascension rankings. Yang An smiled. Qin Wenyan understood in his heart. If Zi Daoyang didn't die, he might be the same as Mo Xie, stepping into Immortal Foundation. After all, even Yang An had already broken through to Immortal Foundation. However, breaking through to Immortal Foundation couldn't be determined by one's strength alone. There were some who had yet to reach the peak of celestial phenomenon, yet their combat prowess could already sweep away peak-level celestial phenomenon ascendants. An example was Zi Daoyang and Mo Xie. Their cultivation bases might not be as deep as Yang An's, but they could already defeat Yang An. But Yang An might have already broken through to Immortal Foundation before them. Other than this, one also had to consider one's fate, one's state of heart, and one's requirements for one's Immortal Foundation. After all, Immortal Foundation could be divided into 6 tiers and 3 grades. However, Yang An's words seemed to indicate that he was doubting the worth of being the top ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings. Even a character like Brother Yang couldn't defeat Zi Daoyang back then? Qin Wenyan smiled as he replied. Zi Daoyang and Mo Xie's combat prowess is extremely terrifying. The competition in the Immortal Ascension rankings back then was simply too intense. Yang An calmly spoke, causing the interest of everyone to be piqued. Someone then added, sometimes, the rankings in the City of Ancient Emperors can't represent everything. For example, there would be clashes between experts, and there would be differences in the value of the rankings. That's true. Many people spoke. If the Crown Prince and Brother Qin were both in the City of Ancient Emperors, there would surely be a fierce battle between tigers and dragons. Someone intentionally added, No, how can I be compared to Brother Qin? Although the value of the rankings in my batch is very high, I'm still only ranked number 5. Yang An's words were humble, yet not humble at all. The value of the rankings in your batch is so low, yet you still think you're very high? You don't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. Little Rascal was currently eating at the table as he spoke in a baby-like voice, causing everyone to be stunned as they turned their gazes onto him. Haha, this little fellow is simply too adorable. This pet actually knows how high the value of the rankings is. What a joke. When he was in the City of Ancient Emperors, Zi Daoyang was already the number 1 ranker. After that, Zi Daoyang, who cultivated for a few more years, was already ranked number 3. You guys are truly amusing. Little Rascal tossed a fruit into his mouth as he stared at everyone with disdain. Zi Daoyang was ranked number 3? Little fellow, you must be joking. Zi Daoyang is the son of the Violet Emperor. He would fall from number 1 to number 3 in the Immortal Ascension rankings. Even if Mo surpassed him, Zi Daoyang should still be number 2, right? Yang An narrowed his eyes. I thought you were very humble. Little rascal stared at Yang An with disdain. Would this Bao Bao lie to you? You can ask Qin Wentian. He heavily injured Zi Daoyang, and after that, Zi Daoyang was ranked number 3. You were ranked number 5 back then. If you didn't leave, you wouldn't even be in the top 10. Chapter 997. Everyone was stunned by Little Rascal's words. Even if Yang An stayed behind, he wouldn't be able to enter the top 10? Qin Wenyan defeated Zidi's son, Zi Daoyang? Although the spectators didn't have a very good understanding of Zi Daoyang. After all, the immortal realms were simply too vast. The various immortal emperors and emperors all had many descendants. However, they all knew of Zidi. In the boundlessly vast immortal realms, Zidi was a peak-level immortal emperor and was an extremely terrifying character. He cultivated many ultimate arts, and all of them were incomparably tyrannical. It was only normal that Zidi's son could become the top ranker in the Immortal Ascension rankings. Qin Wenyan was able to defeat Zidi's son, Zi Daoyang? Wasn't this a little too much? Little rascal is getting more and more adorable. He's even so good at bragging, a girl giggled. Brother Qin, this pet of yours is very interesting. Brother Qin, little brother Qin. At this moment, Yang An also glanced over at Qin Wenyan and smiled. Although Brother Qin is the top ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings and has extraordinary talent, and I, Yang An, believe that Brother Qin's talent is unparalleled, I'm still very clear about Zi Daoyang. Back then, he was able to become the top ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings by relying on his true combat prowess and dual ultimate arts. If he didn't leave the city of ancient emperors, his dual ultimate arts would be as powerful as ascending the heavens. No matter how talented Brother Qin is, it's impossible for you to win against Zi Daoyang. Qin Wenyan smiled as he glanced at Yang and seems like Yang An had seen Zi Daoyang fight before and knew how powerful Zi Daoyang was. Little rascal loves to brag the moment he drinks. Prince, please don't take offense. Qin Wenyan patted Little Rascal on its head. Little Rascal was currently using its claws to drink from the wine cup, and its drunken appearance was even more adorable. Upon hearing Qin Wentian's words, Little Rascal glanced at him in disdain before turning its gaze back to the spectators. Back then, this Bao Bao was only ranked number 7 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. Little Rascal tilted his head up proudly as though he was a god. Brother Qin, I'm afraid your pet's mouth is even sharper than yours. Someone laughed, causing everyone else to laugh as well. Little guy, do you want my rock to play with you? That beautiful maiden patted the crimson blood rock beside her as she smiled. The crimson blood rock stared at Little Rascal as it let out a low roar. Yes, this little fellow is too cute. Why don't we let our demonic beasts accompany it to play? Everyone laughed. Little Rascal's eyes gleamed as he cast a shifty glance at the demonic beasts. After which, he turned to Qin Wenyan, causing Qin Wentian's eyes to flicker. He naturally understood that these people were up to no good, but Little Rascal's brain was also filled with evil thoughts. It wanted to eat the greater demons of the other party for a good meal. AI, this pet of mine has too many problems. He likes to brag and even likes to bite demonic beasts. It's best if we don't play around with him. If not, it wouldn't be good if he were to devour our demonic mounts. Qin Wenyan waved his hands, politely rejecting. Don't worry about it. If Little Rascal really has the ability, it doesn't matter even if we let him bite us a few times. Yeah, if he has the ability, I'll accept it even if he wants to devour my mount. That maiden smiled. The crimson blood rock beside her let out a few screeches at Little Rascal, as though it was provoking him. Little Rascal had already transformed into a little demonic beast and was truly harmless. Regardless of humans or demonic beasts, they didn't know how powerful he was. That adorable appearance of his made them treat him as a pet. Let's chat again. Qin Wenyan waved his hands. Let's chat as we drink. Yang En lifted his wine cup and stood up. This time around, I invited all my brothers and sisters here. I'm very happy that everyone could give me face. I, Yang En, would like to toast to all of you. The Crown Prince of the Qi King is too polite. This time around, the Crown Prince has broken through to immortal foundation. This is truly a joyous occasion. Let me toast to the Crown Prince first. That's right. Since ancient times, there have been many outstanding geniuses. But the immortal foundation realm is truly a hurdle. Even for those with outstanding talent, it's extremely tough to break through. Crown Prince, you have already broken through to immortal foundation in just a few short years. You are a chosen of the heavens and your glory is boundless. This isn't something that a peak ascendant at the celestial phenomenon realm can compare to. Now that you've stepped onto the immortal path, your life will definitely be filled with excitement. Someone pointed in the direction of Qin Wenyin. Everyone cheers. Yang En straightforwardly spoke. After that, he drained the wine in his cup in a single gulp. Everyone sat down respectively. The geniuses gathered together and chatted for a while. Naturally, it was inevitable for them to say a few words of flattery to each other. Qin Wenyin would occasionally feel the gazes of the geniuses landing on him. Evidently, he was still a thorn in the hearts of many. In the vast royal palace, there were countless geniuses with nobility, yet Qin had chosen him. How could this not cause jealousy in the hearts of others? Elder brother Qin. At this moment, the Crown Prince of the Qi King, Yang En, stared at Qin Wenyin as he raised his wine cup. Qin Wenyin smiled and nodded, raising his cup as well. However, Yang En slowly spoke. I came out of seclusion yesterday and not only did I hear that elder brother Qin is the top ranker of the immortal ascension rankings, you even defeated the geniuses of the royal palace and gained the favor of the princess. How envious. Crown Prince is too polite. Qin Wenyin smiled. It's just that I also heard that elder brother Qin came from a particle world. To be able to achieve what you have today, it's truly praiseworthy. Yang En continued, as though he was praising Qin Wenyin. However, he suddenly changed the topic and continued, however, elder brother Qin, have you ever considered the evergreen immortal emperor and the princess? Although elder brother Qin's talent is extremely dazzling, the path of cultivation isn't as simple as talent. The further you go, the more difficult it will be. The path to immortality is a threshold you have to cross, and you will have to face countless dangers. I'm sure elder brother Qin should understand this point, right? Qin Wenyin smiled, declining to comment. Although Yang En's words were logical, his attitude was like a lecturing elder. It was as though he had stepped into the immortal foundation realm and was a tier higher than him. The princess is a precious princess. I'm afraid elder brother Qin won't be able to protect her safety. More importantly, you are not from the right family. Although the princess is loyal to elder brother Qin, disregarding everything, even disregarding her own reputation, and the evergreen immortal emperor dotes on Princess Qin, he also didn't blame elder brother Qin. However, if elder brother Qin truly cares about the princess, you shouldn't only think about yourself, right? Yang En continued, acting as though he was truly thinking for Qin Wenyin and Qin. His words were filled with righteousness, and there were no flaws in his words. Qin Wenyin didn't dare to directly refute him. Crown Prince, what do you think I should do? Qin Wenyin smiled as he asked. Elder brother Qin, if you truly love the princess, you should leave her alone. In the future, if elder brother Qin truly has the ability to transcend the heavens, it wouldn't be too late for you to return. The wine cup in Yang En's hand was still raised as he slowly spoke. The banquet abruptly turned silent. Smiles could be seen in the eyes of everyone. It has finally come. This should be Yang En's true purpose. In the royal palace, it was no longer a secret that Yang En was in love with Princess Qin. Everyone knew about this. Qin Wenyin placed his wine cup down. His eyelids drooped as a cold smile appeared on his face. He then spoke in a low voice, "What status does Crown Prince have to use to persuade me?" As he spoke, he slowly inclined his head and stared at Yang En. The matters between me and Qin. I don't think Crown Prince has the right to criticize me, right? Yang En's words were like needles hidden in silk floss, extremely sinister. If he truly loved Qing, or he should leave her alone? In that case, if he refused to leave, it meant that he didn't love her but was greedy for power? Wanting to ascend to the heavens in a single step? Hee. Yang En laughed as if he didn't care about Qin Wentian's words. He then continued, I'm also thinking for the princess. If my words are too direct, I hope elder brother Qin won't take offense. Drink this as punishment. As he spoke, Yang En drained the cup of wine in his hand. His demeanor was extraordinary. Elder brother Qin, Crown Prince Yang En's words don't make any sense. Someone laughed. Who doesn't know that Princess Qing is doted on by the great emperor? Marrying Princess Qing would be a great opportunity. At that time, elder brother Qin would have both status and talent. Isn't it making things difficult for elder brother Qin to think for the princess' sake? Someone laughed. Since Crown Prince Yang En had started the conversation, Qin Wenian naturally couldn't be spared. Everyone's way of thinking has truly broadened my horizons. Qin Wentian faintly spoke. Nobility. So it turns out that pursuing the princess was only for the sake of her status. No wonder Qin was so disdainful towards all of you. What do you mean by that? Someone coldly asked. What do you think? Qin Wenian turned his gaze to the person who spoke. As expected, you are the same as that bastard. Your words are sharp. Another person emotionlessly spoke. You are the bastard. Your entire family is made up of bastards. Little Rascal tilted its head in a drunken manner as it spoke to the person who spoke. The eyes of the young man narrowed as he stared at Little Rascal. Not only is this bastard stupid, he even knows how to curse. He simply doesn't know the immensity of death. I want to challenge you. Little Rascal stretched out its paw and pointed at that person. You are courting death. That person waved his hand, and a moment later, a white tiger exuding a baleful aura appeared beside him. I can let my demonic beast accompany you to play. Little Rascal, why are you joining in the fun? Qin Wenian hurriedly protected Qin Wenian. I want to challenge you. Little Rascal mumbled. You brother Qin, don't worry. I will only let my demonic beast mount accompany it to play. That young man laughed uproariously when he saw how Qin Wenian and Little Rascal were acting. Brother Qin, this pet is very adorable. Why don't you let these demonic beasts play with it? My demonic beast can go and play as well. Right? Since we are feeling bored, why don't all of you let your demonic beasts spar and play with Brother Qin's pet? Qin Wenian coldly laughed in his heart. These people sure changed their attitude quickly. Since this was the case, he would just play with them. Little Rascal, go and play with these greater demonic beasts. Don't bite them. Qin Wenian was placed in a difficult position. Little Rascal's chubby body leaped out and arrived at the public square in front of them. This Bao Bao will definitely let you all know how powerful I am. What an interesting little fellow. The others waved their hands as their demonic beasts flew over and hovered in the air, surrounding Little Rascal. It was as though they were really teasing a pet. The baleful aura of the white tiger towered up into the sky, its eyes flashing with an intense killing intent. Qin Wenian turned his gaze to the owner of the white tiger, the young man who spoke earlier. A cold light flickered in the eyes of the owner of the white tiger. Evidently, he wanted to kill Little Rascal. How could it be as simple as playing? Chapter 998. Qin Wenian stared at the demonic beasts surrounding Little Rascal as he sighed. Everyone, what's the point of doing this? These demonic beasts don't know any better, how can you injure them? Don't worry about it, let's play with Brother Qin's pet. The owner of the white tiger laughed. This pet is simply too small. The sharp claws of my great rock can easily tear his head apart. That beautiful maiden shook her head. You bunch of idiots. Little Rascal inclined his head and stared at the demonic beasts surrounding him as he cursed in a baby-like voice. The baleful aura of the white tiger towered up into the sky. It was extremely terrifying. Its sharp claws glowed with a baleful light that seemed capable of tearing apart everything. You scared me to death. Scram over here and receive your death. This Bao Bao wants to see how your tiger meat tastes. Little Rascal stretched out his claws and pointed at the white tiger as he cursed. The white tiger let out a low-sounding roar as it ferociously dashed out. The baleful aura around it transformed into a terrifying tempest as its gigantic claws gleamed with an incomparably sharp light as they slashed towards Little Rascal. This strike was sufficient to rip apart Little Rascal's stomach. Qin Wenyin narrowed his eyes when he saw this scene. A cold light flickered in his eyes as he transmitted a killing intent to Little Rascal. A heaven-shaking roar abruptly rang out, causing the hearts of the crowd to tremble. Everyone only saw Little Rascal's body abruptly expanding in size. Terrifying runic light circulated around him as his gigantic claws directly slammed out, shattering the white tiger's claws. His claws then clamped onto the head of the white tiger as a fearsome runic light flashed, transforming into a terrifying vortex. The white tiger's body trembled violently as it convulsed unceasingly, howling in pain. In just an instant, the body of the white tiger slammed into the ground, causing a rumbling sound to ring out as the white tiger's gigantic body lay there, unmoving. The gazes of the crowd froze. This sudden scene caused everyone to be stunned. It was hard to imagine that the seemingly harmless and baby-like Little Rascal would suddenly transform into a fiendish god, a primordial beast. AI, didn't I already say not to spar? It would be bad if these demonic beasts were injured. Qin Wendian sighed. Everyone gritted their teeth when they saw the hypocritical look on his face. "This bastard?" Earlier, everyone thought that he was referring to injuring Little Rascal. Who would have thought that he was referring to injuring their demonic beasts? How preposterous! The other demonic beasts roared. They could feel the towering baleful aura from Little Rascal. They were like the king of beasts, hesitating to advance. A bright light flashed as Little Rascal's body transforming into a golden-winged great rock. Its golden wings fluttered as it shot towards the Crimson Blood Rock like a bolt of lightning. The Crimson Blood Rock's body trembled, a look of fear could be seen in its eyes. It also dashed out as its wings swept out. The two silhouettes collided like two bolts of lightning, so fast that the spectators couldn't even see what was happening. After that, the spectators only saw the Crimson Blood Rock's wings shattering as the terrifying golden claws slammed into its head. The Crimson Blood Rock twitched uncontrollably before falling to the ground, dead. Great Rock! The countenance of that beautiful maiden drastically changed. She stood up only to see her mount being killed on the spot. "Attack together!" Someone roared in a low voice. Momentarily, all the demonic beasts lunged out at the same time, killing their way towards Little Rascal. Little Rascal's speed was extremely fast. He soared up into the air, instantly widening the distance between him and the demonic beasts. All of a sudden, he turned and swooped downwards like a great rock. The runes of light on his wings were akin to the sharpest of golden blades. Swishing sounds rang out as those demonic beasts rushing towards him were directly sliced into pieces. Little Rascal's speed in the form of a golden-winged rock was simply too fast. He was like a true rock king, and the wings on his back were like true golden wings, indestructible. At the banquet, numerous figures stood up. Their countenances were all ashen. That bastard whom they had humiliated was simply too terrifying. He was invincible within the same cultivation level, just like Qin Wenyin, exuding the demeanor of the top ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings. "Everyone, I'm truly sorry. I've already said that we shouldn't spar. It wouldn't be good if our demonic beasts were to be injured, yet everyone insisted. I, Qin, have no way to reject this." Qin Wenyin looked at everyone apologetically as he smiled. Everyone coldly stared at him, their gazes as sharp as blades. This bastard was really good at acting. He was simply smacking their faces. "Qin Wenyin, you are truly impudent," the beautiful maiden coldly spoke. "This place is the Qi King Manor, yet you actually allowed your demonic beast to flaunt its might here and start a massacre. This vile beast is simply too lawless. He deserves death. Qin Wenyin, why aren't you stopping that vile beast of yours?" Tell him to roll over here and accept his death. Everyone stared at Qin Wenyin as they coldly spoke. Qin Wenyan's gaze abruptly turned sharp as he stared at everyone. Earlier, all of you were the ones who kept saying that you wanted to play with my demonic beast, right? I've always rejected you. Didn't someone personally say that if he was truly capable, he would swallow your demonic beast whole? But now, you're saying that I'm the one who's lawless and out of control? As he spoke, Qin Wenyin stared at the young maiden. The one who spoke earlier was none other than her. You even treated my words as a joke so seriously? You actually dared to kill at the banquet? You truly don't have the nobility of our royal palace in your eyes, and you even insulted the crown prince of the Qi King manor. That maiden forcefully spoke, shifting the blame to Qin Wenyin. Brother Qin, aren't you looking down on us a little too much by doing this? Although it's just a demonic beast, isn't your demonic beast slapping us in the face by slaughtering so many people? The master of the white tiger demonic beast also spoke coldly. For a moment, everyone was condemning Qin Wenyin with their words and pen, as though Qin Wenyin had done something that caused the wrath of the heavens and the people. He was an unpardonable evil, and they wanted to punish him on the spot. Haha. Qin Wenyin suddenly laughed out loud. Immediately, everyone shut their mouths and looked at him. Their expressions were icy cold, and they were all enraged. Who was the one who said that he wanted his demonic beast to teach my companion a lesson? Who was the one who insulted him as an idiot who didn't know what was good for him? Who was the one who wanted to kill him? Now, your demonic beasts are just a bunch of trash, and my companion has all been killed. Everything that happened before has become a joke. This is the biggest joke in the world. Qin Wenyin stood up and said proudly. His robe fluttered in the wind, and the wine glass in his hand fell to the ground, making a cracking sound and directly breaking into pieces. A bunch of sanctimonious people only know how to talk about nobility, but in fact, you are a bunch of incompetent trash. Pointing fingers at the matter between me and the princess, you are just a bunch of trash. Do you think you are worthy? Shameless people like you still need me to slap your faces? Do you have any shame? Qin Wenyan's long-accumulated anger erupted in one move. He shouted incessantly, mocking and humiliating everyone. Today, he had come to the banquet to see what kind of tricks these people wanted to play. Since they were going to stir up trouble anyway, he might as well not tolerate it anymore. Qin Wenyin. The woman's face turned green and white. She felt extremely angry, and the anger that had been suppressed in her chest could not be vented. What a bastard! Qin Wenyin actually completely shed all pretense of cordiality and scolded them, the disciples of nobility, in this way. He was simply lawless. Shut up. Qin Wenyin glanced at them. His gaze was extremely sharp, and his terrifying eyes seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. He stared at the beautiful woman and said coldly, "You still have the face to speak? Just now, you were the one who shouted the loudest. As a daughter of nobility, you don't know how to behave yourself and act like a shrew. You have lost all the face of your elders. What a sharp-tongued guy." Qin Wenyin, you really don't put the palace's nobility in your eyes at all. A person's aura surged and rushed out violently, sweeping towards Qin Wenyin. So what if I have a sharp tongue? At least my talent and strength are good enough. A trash like you who only knows how to talk to me like this, and you even dare to say that I don't put nobility in my eyes. Do you even have nobility? A trash like you doesn't need me, Qin Wenyin, to take nobility seriously. Not only are you slapping yourself in the face, you're also throwing away the face of nobility. If a trash like you dares to talk to me like this in the outside world, I'll slap you to death. Qin Wenyan's voice was like thunder, and his roar was so loud that everyone in the Prince of Qi Manor could probably hear it. Those people of nobility who were paying attention to this place must have seen everything that happened here. The person who was humiliated only felt his face turning red. He glared at Qin Wenyin with a murderous gaze, and he almost coughed up a mouthful of blood. Qin Wenyan's tongue was like a sword, scolding people until they went crazy. Qin Wenyin, you've gone too far, that person bellowed in rage. A terrifying aura swept out, and a rumbling sound rang out. The table in front of him directly shattered. He took a step forward, and his aura was astonishing. He lifted his palm and directly smashed it towards Qin Wenyin. In an instant, the heavens and earth rumbled, and an incomparably huge ferocious beast blotted out the sky and covered the earth as it rushed towards Qin Wenyin. It was simply terrifying. I came here to attend the banquet, but you all kept on humiliating me. Now you even want to kill me? You've gone too far, Qin Wenyin roared, as if he wanted everyone to know that it was the other party who wanted to kill him. He lifted his palm, and runic light flashed. With a single palm strike, he directly smashed the huge ferocious beast into pieces. His palm flowed with an astonishing light as he directly grabbed towards the young man in the air. The young man roared and frenziedly attacked. However, this palm imprint was simply invincible. It instantly broke through everything, capable of plucking the stars, the sun, and the moon. When it landed on the young man's body, it directly grabbed him. Qin Wentian's other hand directly swung out. A loud smack rang out as a clear five-fingered imprint was imprinted on the young man's face. He directly slapped the young man, causing him to fall into a daze. At this moment, everyone's gazes were fixed on him, watching as he was slapped. Qin brought me to the royal palace as a guest, and now she even came to attend the banquet in the King of Qi Manor. Your disciple of nobility bullied me because I have no background and was alone, humiliating me. In order to protect myself, I can only retaliate. Qin Wenyin roared, as though he had suffered a great grievance. Everyone was dumbfounded. The young man in the air was so infuriated by Qin Wentian's words that he coughed out a mouthful of blood and almost fainted. He was grabbed by Qin Wenyin and slapped in the air, humiliated to such an extent, yet Qin Wenyin actually said that he was the one who had suffered a grievance and humiliation. Bang! Another loud sound rang out. Qin Wenyin smashed the young man's body onto the ground. He coldly spoke, "A disciple like you has a sharp tongue, but your strength is so trashy. Yet you still keep saying that nobility is a disgrace. I was forced to retaliate, and I believe that nobility won't blame me." The young man let out a low roar. He was heavily injured and had suffered such humiliation. Finally, he was so angry that he fainted. Chapter 999. Qin Wenyin was infuriated. It was as though he wanted to cause a huge ruckus. Since he was in the royal palace, he could only endure as much as he could. However, these people were always targeting him. No matter what, there was no way he could endure it. Since these people wanted to cause trouble, he might as well make it bigger. What was there for him to fear? Everyone was stunned when they saw the enraged Qin Wenyin. Indeed, Qin Wenyin wasn't just good with words. His combat prowess was extremely strong as well. This point was once again proven by the blood of the young man lying on the ground. His status as the #1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings wasn't just for show. Such combat prowess was simply invincible within the same cultivation realm. Too arrogant. Qin Wenyin, you are too impudent. That beautiful young woman was so angry that her body was trembling. This place was the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom, yet he actually dared to act so ruthlessly, lifting the young man up into the air and slapping him, ruthlessly humiliating him. You are the impudent one. Qin Wenyin coldly stared at her as a terrifying light flickered in his eyes. If you want to attack, just scram the hell out. What's the point of trying to win with words? I can crush you with a single strike. The young woman was on the verge of exploding with rage. She clenched her fists tightly, yet she still endured. She knew that Qin Wenyin was too powerful. He was the #1 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, and she wasn't a match for him. If you don't dare, just shut your mouth obediently. Other than calling yourself a disciple of nobility, what else do you have to use your nobility to suppress others? Qin Wenyin coldly spoke. Even a clay figurine would have 3 points of fire. Before this, he had endured for so long, allowing these people to gang up on him and humiliate him. Now, it was time to let them know what sort of trash he was. Qin Wenyin, you are too impudent. A low voice rang out. The gazes of the crowd turned to the silhouette of a young man who was still sitting there. This young man slowly stood up, a dazzling light flowed around his body, giving off an unfathomable feeling. That kind of light could be faintly seen radiating outwards, both internally and externally. This was immortal light. Immortal Foundation experts would have halos of light around them. This young man was clearly telling Qin Wenyan that he was an Immortal Foundation expert. You finally can't take it anymore. Qin Wenyan coldly laughed in his heart. The experts who came to attend the banquet today were all at the celestial phenomenon realm. Characters of this level posed no threat to him at all. These juniors of nobility naturally knew this in their hearts. They could only rely on words to deal with him. If they wanted to suppress him in terms of strength, they could only send out Immortal Foundation characters. Right now, when he acted in rage, there was no one at Celestial Phenomenon who could block him. For the sake of face, these descendants of nobility could only send out Immortal Foundation experts to save the situation. However, he wanted to see what reason these people would use to deal with him. Today, no matter what he did, he had to firmly hold onto the word reason, making those elders of nobility have nothing to say. How am I presumptuous? Qin Wenyan asked with a smile. Your demonic beasts started a massacre. The crown prince of Qi King invited you to attend the banquet. Yet now, you ruin the banquet, heavily injuring people, putting everyone in your eyes and humiliating them. Isn't that presumptuous enough? That Immortal Foundation young man coldly spoke. At this moment, Little Rascal had already killed all the demonic beasts that wanted to deal with him. He reverted back to his chubby form and leaped to the side of Qin Wenyan. He glared at the person who spoke. Do you have any shame? They were the ones who wanted to kill me. Could it be that I allowed them to kill this Bao instead? Are you blind? Qin Wenyan stared at him as he coldly spoke. They were the ones who started the demonic beast war. Earlier, who was the one who acted first? You were the one who spoke rudely. The young man coldly replied. Seems like not only are you blind, you are deaf as well. You can't even hear their words? So it turns out that I can't retort and can only allow them to humiliate me? They wanted to kill the demonic beasts, but I couldn't even resist when they acted. Today, my horizons have truly been broadened. Hee hee. That young man didn't seem to be angered. He merely laughed coldly. Right and wrong are clear to everyone here. There's no need for you to quibble. Brother Qin, I invited you to the banquet, but I didn't expect you to be so overboard. To think that I respected you so much. You have truly disappointed me. The crown prince of the Qi King, Yang An, also spoke, as though Qin Wenyan had angered everyone. From the moment you arrived, they never intended to let you have a good time. Little Rascal stared at Qin Wenyan with disdain. Qin Wenyan rapped Little Rascal on its head as he laughed. You are the smart one. After speaking, he turned his gaze to the others and clasped his hands behind his back as he spoke. Seems like I can only be beaten and scolded. If I retaliate, I'm already guilty. There's no need to say anything more. What do you guys want? Your actions have tarnished the nobility of the royal palace. Apologize to everyone here and leave the royal palace. This isn't a place for you to stay. The Immortal Foundation young man spoke. Apologize? What a joke. Qin Wenyan had a mocking smile on his face. As for leaving the royal palace, why does it sound like the royal palace is your home? His Majesty didn't give the order and you guys are already trying to show off your might. Could it be that me staying in the princess residence has something to do with you guys? In that case, Brother Qin is ignoring our words. Immortal might gushed forth from the young man as the halo of light around him grew even more dazzling. Qin Wenyan stared at him as he slowly spoke. Who the hell do you think you are? Do I, Qin, need to listen to your words? What a brazen fellow. I truly want to see what qualifications you have to be so brazen. That Immortal Foundation young man stepped out as a halo of light radiated from him. Boundless immortal might gushed forth, causing everyone in the surroundings to retreat. Only Qin Wenyan stood there with his hands clasped behind his back as he stared at the Immortal Foundation young man before him. Right now, he was already at the peak of celestial phenomenon and was preparing to establish his immortal foundation. Today's battle was a good opportunity for him to experience the strength of an immortal foundation expert. The people here were all experts of the younger generation. Although they were immortal foundation characters, their cultivation bases weren't too high. Most probably, they were at the initial phase of immortal foundation and were extremely suitable to temper themselves. The immortal foundation young man walked closer and closer to Qin Wenyin. The eyes of everyone sharpened as they stared ahead. Qin Wenyan's aura grew more and more majestic, as though there were waves of tempestuous waves contained within his body. This caused the countenances of everyone to change unceasingly. This Qin Wenyan's strength was truly powerful. His current state was simply too terrifying. That might he exuded was sufficient to crush all celestial phenomenon ascendants. Just by relying on such might, even celestial phenomenon ascendants wouldn't be able to withstand a single strike from him. The immortal foundation young man's palm circulated with law energy as immortal light flashed. The law energy of immortals was a type of transformation energy that was incomparably profound. Every strand of energy contained a terrifying might and was on a completely different level compared to celestial phenomenon ascendants. Immortals could easily insta-kill celestial phenomenon ascendants. Boom. The immortal foundation expert stepped out. Qin Wenyin only felt a terrifying force directly blasting into his body. This formless might was none other than the might of an immortal foundation expert. Qin Wenyin didn't dare to be careless. The energy in his body gushed forth to the extreme as he executed his battle art. Boundless runic light shone around him, as though he had an indestructible body. Clad in platinum armor, he resembled a supreme god of war. Rumble! Qin Wenyan's body grew gigantic. His robes were tattered as runic light shone from his body. His body was over 10 meters in size, resembling an infant fiend god. You actually want to fight against an immortal foundation expert. You overestimate your own capabilities. I will make you understand that the might of an immortal foundation isn't something celestial phenomenon ascendants can defend against. The immortal foundation young man stepped out once more as the might of his immortal foundation blasted into Qin Wenyan's heart once more, wanting to shatter Qin Wenyan's meridians and heart. Qin Wenyan's heart pounded violently. That formless might was akin to the might of the heavens and earth, directly blasting into his heart. If it wasn't for his surging vitality and his powerful physique, even the formless might of an immortal foundation expert would be able to injure him. His palms transformed as a fearsome runic light circulated around them. The terrifying runes exuded a fearsome might, causing the countenances of the experts in the surroundings to change. They stared at Qin Wenyan's palms. These hands were so terrifying, they gave off a feeling that there was nothing they couldn't overcome. It was as though when these hands slammed down, they could destroy everything. A fearsome demonic might enveloped Qin Wenyin. A silhouette of a gigantic elephant appeared on Qin Wenyan's body. There were boundless particles of light within that gigantic elephant, flowing around Qin Wenyan's body. Each and every particle contained a fearsome might of a gigantic elephant, terrifying to the extreme. The might of a dragon and elephant. The power of a dragon and an elephant was extremely strong. The ancient demonic divinity, the Dracophant, had enough strength to shatter the dome of the heavens. The immortal foundation young man could sense that Qin Wenyan's strength was growing stronger and stronger. In fact, Qin Wenyin even felt a trace of threat towards him. With a cold snort he finally acted. Punching out with a simple and unadorned punch, it actually contained the might of an immortal foundation. The terrifying might engulfed the heavens and earth as the law energy within transformed into a golden fist that pierced through space. Terrifying fist shadows circulated in the surroundings, and in an instant, the entire space was filled with the power of the fist, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. Each of the fist shadows was strong enough to kill a peak-level celestial phenomenon ascendant, let alone the meteor fist that was imbued with the power of the meteor fist. As expected of an immortal foundation expert, if I was in there, I would be killed easily. ascending to immortality with a single step, stepping into the immortal realm. He's on a completely different level compared to the celestial phenomenon realm. In the time it took for sparks to fly off a flint, numerous thoughts flashed through the minds of everyone. Qin Wendian didn't retreat. He similarly punched out with the god's hand. The trumpeting of an elephant shook the heavens as a gigantic elephant appeared before him. In fact, each and every particle Qin Wendian blasted out transformed into an indomitable gigantic elephant, possessing supreme might that could shake the heavens and earth. The two forces clashed in the air, causing an earth-shattering collision. The tables and chairs between them were all reduced to dust, not even a scrap was left behind. A gust of astral wind gusted out, causing the people around them to feel their bodies being torn apart as they hurriedly retreated far away from the battlefield. Boom! The deafening sound of collision shook the heavens and earth. The two of them clashed in the most violent manner possible, and at this instant, Qin Wendian and the Immortal Foundation young man were both forced back by the tyrannical might of their opponent. The Immortal Foundation young man froze. His attack was actually blocked? He was an Immortal Foundation expert, someone who could easily kill celestial phenomenon ascendants. Yet, he was actually forced back? The spectators were all stunned as they stared at the godlike figure of Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian stood there arrogantly, staring ahead as he icily spoke. You only have this level of strength after stepping into the Immortal Foundation realm? How ironic, you are nothing more than trash. If I was an Immortal Foundation expert, killing you would be as easy as slaughtering pigs or dogs. Chapter 1000. His arrogant voice rang out through the air. The banquet had already been completely destroyed. In the center of the crowd, the two of them stood facing each other, exuding an incomparably ferocious aura. This strike truly made them feel how powerful Qin Wendian was. Fighting against an Immortal Foundation expert while at the celestial phenomenon realm, how glorious was this? In addition, Qin Wendian didn't seem to be at a disadvantage at all. Although he was forced back, his opponent was also forced back a few steps. Just this strike alone gave him the qualifications to be arrogant. Immortal Foundation experts were existences who had established their immortal foundations and could control law energy. Every attack they made contained true law energy, possessing boundless might. Stepping into the Immortal Foundation realm from celestial phenomenon was a qualitative change, impossible to surpass. No matter how outstanding a celestial phenomenon ascendant was, they wouldn't be able to win against an Immortal Foundation expert. In fact, they might even be insta-killed. This was the common understanding of cultivators. But at this moment, Qin Wendian seemed to have broken this common understanding, shocking everyone. His palms are too terrifying. Also, the power of that innate technique contained law energy as well. Unleashed by a divine elephant, it possesses boundless might. The hearts of everyone mused as they stared fixedly at Qin Wendian's god's hand. What kind of power was this exactly to be able to clash against an Immortal Foundation expert? What innate technique is that? That Immortal Foundation young man asked, staring at Qin Wendian's palms. Regardless of his palms or the divine elephant technique earlier, both were extremely terrifying. It was definitely a type of supremely powerful innate technique. This Immortal Foundation young man was named Mu Feng. He was a descendant of a conferred king-level character. His talent was outstanding and he had already established his Immortal Foundation for a period of time. His Immortal Foundation was extremely stable and he was extremely arrogant, wanting to teach Qin Wendian a lesson, forcing Qin Wendian to apologize and leave the royal palace. Yet with a single strike, he was actually forced back by Qin Wendian, losing all his face. You aren't worthy to know. Qin Wendian laughed. I've already broken through to Immortal Foundation, there's no need for me to use any innate techniques to kill you. You actually have the face to say that you want to blame it on an innate technique? This group of people are all so shameless. Celestial phenomenon ascendants can't ascend to Immortal Foundation. Don't be like what you said the other day. If they still can't do it, they will call for their parents and beg for their grandpa and grandma. Little Rascal, who was behind Qin Wenin, spoke in a baby-like voice, smacking the faces of everyone present. Inviting Qin Wenin to attend the banquet, it was clear that so many people wanted to target Qin Wenin. But as celestial phenomenon ascendants, none of them could do anything to him. Hence, the Immortal Foundation experts acted against him. This by itself was already in the wrong, not to mention that this place was the royal palace of the Immortal Empire. Brother Qin, this bastard's mouth is too stinky. Shouldn't you discipline him? The heir of the Prince of Qi, Yang En, coldly spoke. Now that he was riding a tiger, it was impossible to back down. How impressive! Little Rascal's childish voice rang out once more. He stared at Yang En as he continued, the fifth-ranked genius of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Zi Daoyang is like a divinity in your eyes. You admit that you are inferior, but you still think that others are inferior as well? The person Qin Wenin defeated was Zi Daoyang, who cultivated for several years after you left. To think that you still dared to act so complacently in front of us, thinking that I'm bragging. If this Bao Bao was you, I would have already committed suicide in shame. Little Rascal, leave some face for others. After all, they are all descendants of nobility and have lofty statuses. Although they are trash, their statuses are enough to suppress you to death. Qin Wenin patted Little Rascal on its head, completely ignoring the experts in the surroundings. Do you really think you can stand against Immortal Foundation experts? Before this, Brother Mu was merely playing around with you. If Brother Qin insists on going about things the wrong way, I'm afraid Brother Qin will have to experience the true might of an Immortal Foundation expert. Yang An's aura gushed forth as a terrifying immortal might gushed forth from him. It contained supreme might, terrifying to the extreme. Are you guys planning to come at me together? Qin Wenin mockingly laughed. You are too arrogant. Just you alone is enough. Mu Feng coldly spoke. The might radiating from him grew even more tyrannical as a glass-like glow circulated around him. Faintly, a rumbling sound could be heard from his Immortal Foundation as a bright light flashed in the sky. Qin Wenin saw a constellation in the sky. At that moment, a gigantic golden fist could be seen, towering over the heavens. No, this wasn't a constellation. It was an evolution of a constellation, and its might was many times stronger compared to a normal constellation. It was a qualitative change, akin to an immortal constellation. That flowing fist light resembled a meteor shower, shimmering with boundless runic light. That meteor fist contained immortal law energy, as well as immortal might. Immortal Foundation experts have already established an immortal foundation in their bodies. Their constellations would undergo a transformation, and they would be able to directly absorb the law energy from the constellations in their bodies, strengthening their immortal foundation, causing their immortal phenomenon to transform unceasingly, eventually transforming into a supreme law energy. Qin Wenin stared at his immortal phenomenon, sensing the energy contained within. This time around, fighting against an Immortal Foundation expert was considered an experience for him. Only to see Mu Feng stretching his hands out. Instantly, his arms transformed into the arms of an immortal, fusing together with the immortal constellation in the air, allowing him to better utilize the energy in the air. He punched out once more, piercing through the heavens and earth. Although he was standing at his original location, there was still an immortal fist that blasted towards Qin Wenin. When Immortal Foundation experts acted, they could easily kill people 100 miles away. Qin Wentian's aura gushed forth ferociously. He stepped out, causing the heavens and earth to tremble as he punched out once more. A divine elephant suppressed the heavens and earth, exuding a towering demonic might. The light in the air collided unceasingly. The destructive might contained within was terrifying to the extreme. Mu Feng's countenance was incredibly unsightly to behold. Both his fists radiated a fearsome might as they blasted out together. The light radiating from his body grew even more resplendent as an immortal foundation shimmered in and out of existence, radiating boundless immortal light that enveloped him. Energy circulated around his fists, causing Mu Feng to be bathed in true immortal light. Each and every one of his attacks shook the heavens and earth, exuding an unstoppable might. Both of Qin Wentian's hands transformed into God's hands. This was the first time he used both of his hands together to attack, depleting his energy. If it wasn't for the fact that he had multiple palaces and the boundless astral energy in his body, there was no way he would be able to support such a tyrannical battle. How terrifying was the might of God's hands, able to clash head-on against an immortal foundation expert. The impact of the collision caused the sky to change color as the spectators in the surroundings retreated again and again. Qin Wentian was simply too powerful, possessing a perfect physique. His fleshly body was like an indestructible body, flowing with boundless light, comparable to fiend gods. His attacks shook the heavens and earth, resisting immortal might. Evidently, Qin Wentian's attacks also contained law energy. As an expert of his level, it was impossible for him not to have comprehended law energy. However, it was impossible for celestial phenomenon ascendants to directly absorb immortal energy like immortal foundation experts. Even if celestial phenomenon ascendants comprehended law energy, there was a limit to how much they could comprehend. The immortal foundation created by an immortal foundation expert was filled with immortal might, possessing boundless might. If the battle dragged on, no matter how powerful Qin Wentian was, he would still be defeated without a doubt. But even so, Qin Wentian was already sufficiently proud. At the very least, he had truly used his strength to intimidate these disciples of nobility, letting them truly feel the disparity between them and him. The top ranker of the immortal ascension rankings in the city of ancient emperors had defeated Zi Daoyang. Right now, they no longer doubted him. Qin Wentian, are these all your trump cards? Mu Feng coldly spoke, continuing his attacks. An immortal foundation expert actually dares to speak arrogantly when fighting against a celestial phenomenon ascendant? I truly feel sad for you, Qin Wentian domineeringly replied. The two of them fought from the ground to the air. AI, how embarrassing. I still thought that immortal foundation experts were so amazing. Little Rascal inclined his head and sighed, looking extremely adorable. However, numerous cold gazes landed on him, as though he couldn't tolerate him. What do you guys want? Little Rascal noticed the unfriendly gazes of the crowd. His body expanded in size as he spoke. If there's anyone who wishes to have a fair battle with me on the same level, this Bao Bao is more than willing to accompany you. Vile creature, who would have the time to fight with you? I was the one who organized the banquet, yet you swallowed all my demonic beasts. Since this is the case, take your life as compensation. The eyes of the crown prince of the Qi King, Yang En, flickered with coldness as he stepped forward. You want to use your immortal foundation to bully celestial phenomenon ascendants again? Little Rascal transformed into a golden-winged great rock and floated in the air, staring at Yang En with a sharp gaze. Yang En's gaze was terrifying, flickering with killing intent. He had always been interested in Qin and wanted to woo her. Today, he invited Qin Wentian here because he wanted to humiliate him and force him to retreat. However, in the end, Qin Wentian caused such a huge commotion at the banquet and no one was able to suppress him, fighting against an immortal foundation expert. Yang En, who was ranked number 5 on the immortal ascension rankings, wasn't even worthy of a mention. Even though he had broken through to the immortal foundation realm, he didn't have anything to be proud of. This caused him to feel extremely unhappy in his heart. Given the talent Qin Wentian displayed, as well as the fact that he was doted on by the princess, everyone in the royal palace should have seen the commotion today. Most probably, it would be very difficult for him to compete against Qin Wentian. Yang En was an intelligent man. Although Qin Wentian had always said that he had no background, it was clear that there were still immortal kings who regarded him highly. If not, he wouldn't have been able to go to the city of ancient emperors. However, a mere immortal king wouldn't be able to stand out in the royal palace. Hence, it was very normal for Qin Wentian to not say anything. But with Qin Wentian's talent, after he stepped into the immortal foundation realm, he might be able to find an even more powerful backer in the future. This caused Yang En to feel jealousy in his heart. Was Princess Qing'er destined to be with him? But since he lost face today, he had to make Qin Wenyan pay the price no matter what. Time to go. Little Rascal suddenly transformed into a golden bolt of lightning, soaring through the air. He knew that Yang An's killing intent had been triggered. If he wanted to fight against an Immortal Foundation expert, he truly had no confidence. Do you think you can escape? Yang An stepped out, his entire body radiating immortal light as his Immortal Foundation radiated immortal might. His entire body was shrouded in law energy as he soared through the air like the wind, chasing after Little Rascal. Boom! A terrifying storm of immortal might engulfed everything, instantly enveloping this entire space. Little Rascal halted his steps as he stared at the terrifying storm of immortal law energy around him. Yang An radiated fearsome law energy. His talent was even more outstanding compared to Mu Feng. Although he had just stepped into the Immortal Foundation realm, he wasn't in any way inferior to Mu Feng. Die! Yang An coldly snorted. The boundless law runes within the storm transformed into thin wind blades that could slice apart space, slashing towards Little Rascal with boundless might. Little Rascal revolved as a golden light radiated from him, enveloping him completely. That sharp wind blade actually had no way to break through his defense. After which, Little Rascal soared up into the air as the terrifying golden storm of wind annihilated everything, wanting to rush out from Yang An's storm. What a powerful defense! The killing intent in Yang An's eyes grew even more intense. He couldn't kill Qin Wenyan, this vile creature had to die here today. Chapter 1001. Yang An stared at the revolving golden-winged rock as killing intent flashed in his eyes. Boundless immortal law energy circulated within his body as a terrifying tempest coalesced together, transforming into a heaven-shaking saber. This saber slashed through the air, exuding an indomitable might. If this saber slashed out, the might it could unleash would be unimaginably terrifying. Yang An brandished the long saber in his hand. His silhouette was like the wind as he instantly appeared before Little Rascal, slashing out with his saber. This saber strike contained a terrifying might, capable of cleaving apart everything. Little Rascal could feel the danger it was in. It soared through the 9 heavens as its golden wings transformed into countless golden swords that shot out frenziedly, yet they were all shattered by the saber light. With a loud roar, Little Rascal reverted to his true form, resembling a supreme demon king. His sharp claws slashed out, radiating a towering might. A formless barrier of light enveloped his body, and as the saber slashed down, cracking sounds rang out as the barrier of light shattered. Little Rascal frantically retreated, only to see the saber light sweeping out like a bolt of lightning, directly arcing through the air. Fresh blood splattered as the golden body of Little Rascal was shattered into pieces. The immortal might was simply too powerful. From very far away, Qin Wenyan saw that Yang An was currently dealing with Little Rascal. He frenziedly moved over, unleashing towering palm imprints with God's hand, shattering everything. However, Mu Feng couldn't do anything even after a long time. How could he allow Qin Wenyan to leave the battlefield? That would be a humiliation to him. Little Rascal! Qin Wenyan naturally saw Yang An attacking Little Rascal. His eyes burned with terrifying flames of rage. When Mu Feng's meteor fist blasted over, Qin Wenyan roared in rage. An immortal-ranked long spear appeared in his god's hand. The long spear expanded in size, directly penetrating through Mu Feng's immortal fist, aiming for his opponent's body. Mu Feng frantically retreated. Qin Wenyan soared through the air, directly moving towards the other battlefield. At this moment, Little Rascal was slashed by a saber light as fresh blood splattered through the air. Qin Wenyan's overwhelming might gushed forth as the might of his god's hand was unleashed to the maximum. Yang An slashed out with his saber again, continuing to attack Little Rascal. However, a thunderous roar rang out as he felt an intense sense of danger. Turning his body, he only saw an immortal-ranked long spear that was several hundred meters long piercing through space, directly piercing towards him. This spear strike was as fast as lightning, containing a fearsome might. Yang En turned and slashed out with his saber, slashing towards Qin Wentian's spear. Their attacks collided, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. The spear was like a hot knife through butter, shattering apart the saber formed from law energy. The law energy of the spear enveloped Yang En, causing Yang En's body to shift. Boom! Qin Wentian soared through the air, directly moving to the side of Little Rascal. His cold eyes stared at Yang En as he spoke. Evergreen Kingdom Palace, disciples of nobility. Today I, Qin, have truly witnessed your shamelessness. This is truly an eye-opener. Mu Feng and Yang En each stood in the air. Both of their expressions were extremely unsightly to behold. They were both Immortal Foundation characters, and if an Immortal Foundation expert acted, they would already be in the wrong. But now they actually failed to capture this man and demonic beast. What was laughable was that so many people were clearly targeting Qin Wentian, yet they were the ones who were humiliated by Qin Wentian instead. I, Qin Wentian, have experienced enough of this banquet. Farewell. Qin Wentian and Little Rascal were preparing to leave. However, Yang En coldly spoke. You want to leave just like that? You invited me here to participate in this banquet. Isn't this already enough? Do you still want me, Qin Wentian, to leave my life behind? Qin Wentian stared at Yang En. Killing intent had already appeared in his heart. Before this, although these disciples of nobility were jealous of him and had prejudice against him, he could still understand it. But now, these people seemed to have crossed the line, causing killing intent to appear in his heart. You caused such a ruckus at the banquet, completely disregarding the nobility of the royal palace. Without giving an explanation, you want to leave? Right now, Yang En was already riding a tiger. It was hard for him to dismount. There was a devil in his heart. He had no way to swallow this anger. When he first broke through to Immortal Foundation, he initially thought that he would be able to shine brightly, and after he came out of seclusion, he heard news of Qing'er and Qin Wentian. Hence, he invited Qin Wentian over, wanting to kill him a little to make him retreat. But who would have thought that Qin Wentian would cause such a ruckus? Right now, he didn't dare to allow Qin Wentian to swagger his way out like that. Qin Wentian laughed uproariously. He stared at Yang En and pointed the spear in his hand at him as he coldly spoke. Yang En, this is the royal palace of an immortal empire. I don't wish to be too ruthless. If not, who do you think you are? Do you really think you can make me stay behind and even want me to give you an explanation? Ridiculous to the extreme. Are you even worthy? How would you know if you don't try? Yang En's expression grew increasingly sinister. Try? Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the air. I know there are many seniors in the royal palace watching this. I'm sure everyone here is clearer than me on what is right and what is wrong. The disciples of nobility have gone too far. Qin, have already endured it. If the Qi King Manor doesn't send someone to stop Yang En from seeking his own humiliation and still insist on forcing me to stay behind, I would really treat this as a life-and-death battle. Qin Wentian's arrogant words caused everyone in the surroundings to stare dumbfoundedly. Too arrogant, Qin Wentian was simply brazen to the extreme. If the Qi King Manor didn't send someone to stop Yang En, could he really take Yang En's life? Most probably, Yang En wouldn't be able to swallow this anger. After all, this place was the Qi King Manor. And as expected, after Yang En heard Qin Wentian's words, immortal might gushed forth violently from him, terrifying to the extreme. His aura churned intensely as he stared at Qin Wentian. How would he be willing to give up? I truly want to see how you want to fight to the death with me. Yang En's silhouette flickered as an immortal weapon appeared in his hand. It was a saber, an incomparably sharp saber. The saber light radiating from the saber radiated an intense coldness that seemed capable of killing. Let's go. Qin Wentian kept his spear. With his back facing Yang En, a sword appeared in his right hand. The demon sword sliced through his palm as his blood seeped into it. The demon sword hummed as a terrifying demonic might gushed forth, engulfing the heavens and earth. At the same time, Qin Wentian clenched his left fist. It was the wind rock rune bone, and in an instant, Qin Wentian's body seemed to be transforming into a true rock. How arrogant! Yang En's body was like the wind as he rushed out with inconceivable speed. But at the same time, Qin Wentian's silhouette vanished from sight. In the air, numerous afterimages of great rocks appeared as the wind whistled, terrifying to the extreme. Yang En halted his steps. His long saber slashed out, but he only managed to slash the afterimages. Yang En released his immortal sense. There was no one there, only a great rock. Qin Wentian seemed to have transformed into a rock. Even his sword intent had disappeared. The demon sword also transformed into a rock. In this space, there was only a rock. How fast! Everyone inclined their heads and stared at the sky. The speed was so fast that they couldn't see anything clearly. Only wind rocks could be seen revolving around Yang and lifted his saber as boundless law energy enveloped him, guarding against Qin Wentian's sneak attack. Bzzz. Countless great rocks swooped down, transforming into countless afterimages as they rushed towards Yang and roared in rage as the might of his immortal foundation erupted forth. His law energy transformed into a tempest that soared up into the clouds, wanting to destroy everything. Rumbling sounds rang out unceasingly. At this instant, Qin Wentian had already launched his attack. The wind rocks continued to attack unceasingly, exuding terrifying might. A wind rock that was faster than the wind rushed towards Yang En, directly passing through the gaps between the attacks. Yang En's eyes suddenly refracted a sword light, and his expression changed drastically. His sword hummed, and the sword light was like a wash as it flashed past. Poochie! A light sound rang out as fresh blood spurted out. The crowd only saw the silhouette of a great rock descending from the sky. After that, this great rock took on the form of a human, and it was none other than Qin Wentian using the fiend transformation art. Yang En clutched his throat with both hands, his countenance was as pale as paper. He stared fixedly at Qin Wentian as the long saber in his hand fell to the ground. This scene was shocking to the eyes and heart. Yang En at the Immortal Foundation realm, the crown prince of the Qi King, was insta-killed by a celestial phenomenon ascendant like Qin Wentian with a single sword strike. Boom! A terrifying might bore down as several silhouettes appeared at the same time. One of them landed beside Yang En as a powerful immortal light enveloped him. After that, that person fed a medicinal pill into Yang En's mouth. The wound on Yang En's throat rapidly healed as the fresh blood stopped flowing. Qin Wentian wasn't surprised by this scene. This place was the Qi King Manor. That sword strike wouldn't be able to claim the life of an Immortal Foundation expert like Yang En. Not long after, Yang En's wounds were completely healed. His eyes were filled with a sinister light as he stared fixedly at Qin Wentian. Ridiculous! Qin Wentian laughed mockingly. Such a smile caused Yang En to be even more infuriated. Little fellow, you have guts. An imposing middle-aged man stared at Qin Wentian as coldness flickered in his eyes. This man was none other than the immortal king of the Qi King Manor, and his strength was extremely terrifying. In the end, he was still a little too cowardly. If not, that sword strike would have killed him instantly. However, Senior still has to discipline him properly. For someone like him, he wouldn't be able to survive for more than a few days in the outside world. He wouldn't even know how he died. If we weren't in the Qi King Manor today, he would already be a dead man. Qin Wentian mocked, not even bothering to glance at Yang and clenched his fists tightly as the killing intent in his eyes grew even more terrifying. The hearts of the spectators below trembled. Everything that happened today had already exceeded their expectations. Clearly, they didn't expect Qin Wentian to be so domineering and tyrannical. They understood that after this battle, Qin Wentian would become Yang En's heart demon. His hatred for Qin Wentian would seep into his bones. If he didn't kill Qin Wentian, he would never be able to forget the humiliation he suffered today. That immortal king laughed. Shouldn't your elders properly discipline you? It's not a good thing for you to be so arrogant. Could it be that the elders of the Qi King Manor want to act against me as well? Qin Wentian laughed. Although you are a friend of the princess, if the Chi King Manor wants to use their personal grudges to teach you a lesson, I'm afraid no one would be able to help you." That immortal king laughed. Although Yang An's performance today was somewhat unsightly, he was still the crown prince of the Chi King Manor after all. This Qin Wenyin was a character, but he was too arrogant, causing the Chi King Manor to lose face. He truly wanted to see how gutsy Qin Wenyin was. "I advise Senior not to do such a thing." Qin Wenyin laughed. "If this has nothing to do with the Chi King Manor, I'm afraid your Chi King Manor wouldn't be able to bear the consequences." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.